As the great Buddha once wisely said, "Peace comes from within, do not seek it without." And yet, most of us spend our lives chasing happiness in people, things, and places only to be left empty when it fades. But what if the peace you're searching for was never outside you to begin with? Imagine a life where sadness doesn't control you anymore, where emotions come but don't break you, where peace becomes your natural state even when the world is not peaceful. Sounds impossible? Not with the wisdom of Buddhist philosophy, because once you understand how to master your mind, no moment of sadness can own you again. If you're ready to reclaim your inner calm, this video will change everything. Buddhist teachings will shift how you see pain and guide you back to peace. Let's begin. 1. Pain is inevitable, but suffering is a choice zone. Pain is inevitable, but suffering is a choice. In the heart of Buddhist wisdom lies a truth so simple, yet so powerful, it can shift the entire way you see your life. Pain is part of being alive. There's no escaping it. You will lose people you love. You will face disappointment, heartbreak, illness, and unexpected challenges. The Buddha himself said, "Birth is suffering, aging is suffering, death is suffering." Pain is woven into the very fabric of human existence, not as a punishment, but as a universal condition that touches all of us. But here's the secret that most people never realize. While pain is inevitable, suffering is not. Suffering is not what happens to you, it's what your mind does with what happens to you. Pain knocks at the door, but suffering is how long you let it sit in your home. You see, suffering is born from resistance. When something painful happens, the mind begins to protest. Why me? This shouldn't have happened. I can't accept this. That inner resistance builds a wall inside you, and behind that wall, sadness, frustration, and helplessness grow. Buddhism teaches us that freedom begins when we stop fighting reality, when you allow pain to arise without labeling it as wrong, without clinging to how things should have been. You remove its power to control you. It doesn't mean you won't feel hurt. It means you won't drown in it. Like a wave crashing onto the shore, pain comes and goes. But when you hold on to it, replay it, resist it, and attach your identity to it, that's when pain transforms into suffering. Imagine holding a burning coal. Pain is the burn. But suffering is when you keep gripping it, refusing to let go. The longer you hold on, the more damage it does. Letting go doesn't mean pretending the pain never happened. It means you stop feeding it with your energy, your thoughts, your identity. You are not what happened to you. You are not your broken moments. You are the awareness behind them. The moment you accept pain as a temporary visitor, you stop letting it become the architect of your inner world. Sadness no longer defines who you are. It becomes just one passing cloud in the vast sky of your consciousness. So when pain visits you, and it will breathe. Witness it. Welcome it with understanding, not fear. And gently remind yourself, this too shall pass, because suffering is not your destiny. It is a habit of the mind, and with awareness, you can choose to break it. 3. You are not your thoughts, you are the watcher. One of the most liberating truths in Buddhist philosophy is this: you are not your thoughts. Let that settle, because most people go through life never questioning the voice in their head. They think that if the mind says something, especially something painful, critical, or fearful, it must be true. But Buddhism teaches something radically different. You are not the noise. You are the awareness listening to it. The mind is like a flowing river. It produces thoughts continuously, some light, some dark, some helpful, some deeply destructive. These thoughts rise from memories, beliefs, fears, and unconscious conditioning. The mind might tell you, "I'm not good enough," or "nobody loves me," or "my life has no meaning." And if you don't pause, you start believing those stories. You don't just hear the thought, you become it. This is where suffering grows, when you let your thoughts become your identity. But here's what the Buddha taught. You are not the river, you are the sky above it. The sky watches the river. It holds the clouds, the storms, and the sunshine. It doesn't argue with them. It simply allows them to pass. In the same way, you have the power to witness your thoughts without becoming entangled in them. This practice is called mindfulness, a deep, non-judgmental awareness of what's happening in your inner world. It means noticing a thought like, "I feel hopeless," and instead of accepting it as truth, saying, "Ah, here is a thought of hopelessness." The difference may seem small, but it's massive. Because now you've created space. You've become the observer, not the prisoner. When you start watching your thoughts instead of being pulled by them, a quiet strength begins to rise inside you. You begin to understand, just because your mind says something doesn't mean it's real. The mind is shaped by past wounds, false beliefs, ego, and fear. It's not always wise. It's not always kind. And it's certainly not always truthful. But you are the one watching. And that watcher, that awareness is peaceful, still, and free. This is why monks and serious Buddhist practitioners spend hours in meditation, not to silence their minds forever, but to disidentify from the chaos, to see thoughts as clouds drifting by, not commands they must obey. When you wake up to this truth, your entire relationship with sadness changes. You stop drowning in every negative thought. You stop spiraling into old patterns. You begin to see sadness as a wave of the mind, not the truth of your being. So the next time a sad or painful thought rises, try this. Pause. Don't react. Don't judge. Just watch. Breathe deeply. Observe the thought like a leaf floating down a stream. And remind yourself, this thought is not me, it is just passing through. With consistent practice, the inner storms become quieter. Your mind may still whisper sadness, but your heart no longer believes it. Because you've discovered something stronger, deeper, and eternal, the watcher within you. And that watcher cannot be broken. It only watches, learns, and grows. 4. Craving is the root of all suffering. At the very heart of Buddhist philosophy lies one of its most profound insights. All suffering begins with craving. The Buddha did not say this as a poetic observation. He declared it as a core truther diagnosis of the human condition. And once you begin to see this clearly, your entire understanding of sadness begins to shift. So what does craving really mean? In the modern world, we often mistake craving for simple desire. But in Buddhism, craving, or tanha, is much deeper. It is the mental and emotional clinging to something with the belief that only if I get this, I will be happy. It is not just wanting something, it's becoming attached to the outcome. It's saying, I must have this to feel okay, or if I lose this, I'll fall apart. This craving shows up everywhere. We crave love, approval, stability, pleasure, attention, control, wealth, success, of an inner peace itself. And when reality doesn't meet those expectations, sadness rushes in like a flood. Why? Because the mind believes that something is missing, that life should be different, that you can't be happy unless things go your way. Here's a simple truth. Craving creates a gap between what is and what we want. That gap is where suffering grows. The wider the gap, the deeper the suffering. Let's say you fall in love and crave that the person will never leave. But people change, life moves. And if they do leave, you not only feel pain but intense suffering because the mind can't accept the loss. Not because love is wrong, but because of the clinging, the tight grasp, the refusal to let things flow naturally. Craving attaches your happiness to conditions. It says, I'll be happy when I get this job. I'll be okay once I fix my past. I'll be at peace only if everything goes the way I planned. But life is never that obedient. It is wild, uncertain, and full of surprises. And when your happiness depends on outcomes you can't control, your peace becomes fragile, easily broken, constantly threatened. But here's the good news. Once you begin to let go of craving, suffering starts to dissolve. You begin to love without clinging, work without obsessing, live without needing everything to be perfect. You still enjoy life, but you no longer grasp at it. You stop reaching with desperation and start receiving with gratitude. In Buddhism, this is not about detachment in a cold, emotionless sense. It's about non-attachment, being deeply present, fully alive, but not imprisoned by desire. You love fully, but if the person walks away, you don't fall apart. You appreciate your success, but if you fail, your worth doesn't shatter. You accept what comes, you accept what goes. This mindset is powerful. It turns your heart into a vast, open sky where life can pass through without causing destruction. You begin to trust the rhythm of impermanence. You no longer beg life to behave. You begin to flow with it. The next time sadness rises from loss or disappointment, pause and ask, what was I clinging to? What outcome was I desperately needing to feel okay? And then gently let it go. Breathe into that space. Offer your craving to the wind and discover that beneath all that reaching, you already have everything you need to be at peace. Because freedom doesn't come from getting everything you want, it comes from realizing you don't need to. 5. Everything is temporary, including sadness. In the quiet halls of Buddhist monasteries, there is a truth that echoes louder than any chant. A truth so simple that the mind often overlooks it. Everything changes. Everything you see, feel, touch, think, and experience is impermanent. Nothing lasts. Not the joy that lifts your spirit, and not the sorrow that bends your back. This understanding, known as anicca, or impermanence, is not just a comforting idea. It is a law of nature, a direct observation of how life truly works. Look at the seasons. Winter gives way to spring. Flowers bloom, then wither. Rivers rise, then shrink. Even the strongest mountains crumble over time. Everything moves. Everything flows. And the same is true for your emotions. Sadness may feel permanent when you're inside it. It wraps around your chest, clouds your thoughts, and convinces you that it's here to stay. But pause for a moment and look back at your life. How many times have you felt crushingly to rise again? How many nights have you cried, thinking the pain would last forever, only to find yourself laughing weeks or months later? At the time, it felt eternal. But nothing ever truly was. This is the gift of impermanence. No emotion, no thought, no state of mind has the power to stay forever. But most people suffer not because pain exists, but because they believe it will never end. The mind plays tricks. It says, this sadness will never leave you. You will always feel this way. And in believing that lie, you become trapped. You build a mental prison and lock yourself inside. Buddhism teaches that the key to peace is not to deny sadness, but to understand its nature. Sadness is like a rainstorm. It may be heavy, it may be loud, but it cannot last. It cannot. No storm has ever stayed in the sky forever. And once you stop fearing your emotions and start observing them with compassion, they begin to move. They come, they go, they return, they pass. The pain you feel today is not here to destroy you. It's here to teach you presence, to humble your ego, to soften your heart. And then, once the lesson is learned, it moves on. That's how emotions work. They rise like waves and fall like dusk. But when you resist them, when you say, I shouldn't feel this, or this is too much, you trap the emotion in your body. You keep it stuck. You prolong its stay. The suffering intensifies because you're holding on to something meant to pass through you, not live inside you. This is why meditation and mindfulness are so powerful in Buddhism. They teach you to sit with your feelings, not to fix them or force them away, but to simply be with them, like a gentle witness. You breathe. You watch. You listen to the sadness without judging it. And in doing so, you discover something sacred. You are not the sadness. You are the space it moves through. You become like the sky vast, open, untouched by the storm. When you fully embrace impermanence, a strange and beautiful thing happens. You begin to love more deeply and suffer less. You cherish the good moments because you know they won't last. And you endure the bad moments because you know they won't either. This understanding doesn't make you cold, it makes you wise. It frees you from the illusion that life must be constant, people must stay, and emotions must feel good all the time. It helps you stand tall in your sadness and whisper, "This too shall pass." So the next time you feel broken, heavy, or lost in sorrow, look around you, watch the leaves fall, hear the rain fade, feel the air move. And remember, you are a part of this ever-changing world. You were never meant to stay stuck. You too are always becoming. Let sadness come. Let it stay for a while. Let it leave. It is only a guest. You are the home. 6. Stillness is the medicine for a noisy heart. In a world that is constantly loud externally and internally, there is one form of healing that most people overlook: stillness. In Buddhist philosophy, stillness is not simply the absence of movement. It is the presence of awareness. It is the quiet refuge you return to when the world becomes too overwhelming. It is the space where sadness can be seen, not suppressed, and eventually released. Sadness often feels unbearable because we keep running from it. We avoid it with distractions. We drown it in endless scrolling, meaningless conversations, noise, food, and busyness. We are terrified of being still, because in that stillness, we are finally forced to meet what we've been avoiding: our pain. But here lies the great paradox. The more you run from sadness, the more it controls you. And the more you sit with it, the more it transforms. Buddhist monks spend hours, even entire days, sitting in meditation, not to escape reality, but to fully embrace it. In the silence, they don't chase happiness. They don't resist pain. They simply watch the movement of the mind. They observe emotions rise and fall without becoming attached to them. And in that sacred silence, something remarkable happens. Peace begins to emerge on its own. You see, the mind is like a turbulent pond. When you keep throwing stones of thought, regret, and resistance into it, the water stays muddy and chaotic. But if you just sit and stop stirring the water, slowly the dirt settles, the surface clears. You begin to see what lies underneath. That is what stillness offers you, not escape, not numbness, but clarity. Sadness is like a fog in the mind, and when you remain still, without judgment, the fog slowly lifts. You begin to realize that the sadness is not who you are. It's something you are experiencing. It's not your identity. It's an emotional cloud passing through your awareness. But you can't see that truth if you're constantly running from it. When you sit in stillness, especially when you're sad, you are making a powerful declaration: I am not afraid to feel. And that simple act of courage begins to dissolve the suffering. Because much of what we call sadness isn't just the emotion itself. It's the fear of the emotion, the resistance, the story we attach to it. But when you sit quietly, without labeling, without dramatizing, and just breathe with the sadness, you begin to feel something deeper underneath its peaceful presence. Stillness also helps you reconnect with your breath, which in Buddhism is one of the most sacred tools of awareness. The breath anchors you to the present moment. It reminds you that you are alive, that you are safe. That, even though sadness feels overwhelming, your lungs still fill with air, your heart still beats. Life continues to flow through you, and that, in itself, is a quiet miracle. And here's the beauty of it. You don't need a monastery to find this stillness. You don't need to be a monk. You can create a pocket of silence right where you are. Sit in your room, turn off your phone, close your eyes, breathe slowly. Don't try to stop your thoughts. Don't fight your sadness. Just sit with it, observe it. Feel its texture. Be fully present with the discomfort. At first, it may feel difficult. Your mind might rebel. Your body may feel restless. But if you stay, just stay with yourself, something soft and sacred will begin to open inside you. You will begin to feel a quiet strength, a subtle warmth, a deep gentleness that the noise of life had hidden from you. This is the medicine of stillness. It doesn't come with a label or instructions. It doesn't promise instant relief, but it offers something much more powerful, a path back to yourself. When your heart is heavy and the world feels too loud, remember this. You don't have to fix everything. You don't have to figure it all out. Sometimes, the most powerful thing you can do is nothing. Just sit. Just breathe. Just be. The stillness will hold you. It will remind you that peace is not something you find, it's something you uncover, and it has been within you all along. So the next time sadness knocks on your door, don't run, don't distract, don't panic. Sit in stillness. Welcome it. Listen to it. Let it speak its truth. And you will see it doesn't want to destroy you, it just wants to be seen. And once it is seen with love, it slowly fades like mist, touched by morning light. 7. Compassion heals sadness from the root. When your heart feels heavy and your spirit tired, there's a medicine more powerful than logic, more healing than time, and more transforming than silence. That medicine is compassion. In Buddhist philosophy, compassion is not a weakness. It is not soft or passive. It is a profound inner strength, a warm force that dissolves suffering at its very root. The Buddha taught that compassion, or karuna, is one of the 4 immeasurablest qualities so vast and sacred that they can uplift both the one who gives and the one who receives. When you feel sadness, especially a deep kind that seems to linger for days or even years, it's often because some part of you has been unloved, ignored, judged, or rejected. That wound does not heal through blame. It heals through gentle, steady love. It heals through compassion. But compassion must begin with yourself. This is where many people struggle. They think being kind to themselves is selfish. They've been taught to be hard, to push through pain, to never complain, to just get over it. But Buddhism invites you to treat yourself the same way you would treat a crying child. If a child you loved were hurting, would you yell at them? Would you tell them they're weak for feeling pain? No, you would hold them, speak gently, listen deeply. So why treat yourself any differently? When sadness rises, the first act of healing is self-compassion. Sit with yourself, place your hand over your heart, feel your breath, and say inwardly, "It's okay to feel this. I am here for you." This simple practice, speaking kindly to yourself in a moment of darkness, is not trivial. It can break lifelong patterns of self-hatred. It can melt walls that you've unconsciously built to protect yourself from pain. And it can reconnect you with the soft, radiant being inside who simply wants to be seen and loved. But compassion doesn't end with the self. It naturally begins to extend outward. The more you soften toward your own sadness, the more sensitive you become to the suffering of others. You begin to realize, I am not the only one hurting. Everyone is fighting a silent battle. Everyone carries invisible wounds. That person who seems angry may be grieving. That friend who grew distant may be overwhelmed. That stranger who ignored you may be deeply lonely inside. Buddhism teaches that when you look at others through the lens of compassion, judgment fades, comparison fades, bitterness fades. You no longer take things so personally because you understand, just like me, they want to be happy. Just like me, they are doing their best to survive pain. And here's the miracle. When you help others heal, you heal too. Small acts of compassion, listening without interrupting, comforting someone without needing to fix them, giving without expecting anything in return, these become not just kind deeds, but spiritual practices. They turn your sadness into a bridge, connecting you to others instead of isolating you, because sadness, when left unshared, can turn into loneliness. But when transformed through compassion, it becomes a thread of unity, a reminder that none of us are truly alone in our suffering. This is why the Dalai Lama often says, if you want others to be happy, practice compassion. If you want to be happy, practice compassion. It is not just a tool to help the world. It is a balm for your own broken heart. And when you combine self-compassion and compassion for others, something extraordinary happens. You begin to rise above your sadness, not by forcing it away, but by transcending it with love. You stop asking, "Why am I sad?" and begin to ask, "How can I hold this sadness with love?" That question alone changes everything. Compassion allows you to cry without shame, to rest without guilt, to forgive your past, to loosen your grip on perfection. It teaches you that healing is not about being happy all the time. It's about being kind to yourself when you're not. And sometimes the deepest sadness does not need a solution, it just needs space. It needs a hand on the shoulder, a soft word, a gentle presence. Compassion gives that space. It says, you don't have to hide your pain. You don't have to pretend. I see you, and I am still here. So when sadness comes, don't turn away, don't harden, don't push it down. Instead, breathe into it. Hold it like a fragile bird. Speak to yourself with kindness. Look at others with understanding. Let your heart stretch wider than the pain, deeper than the sorrow. Because your sadness is not a weakness, it is an invitation to love yourself more fully, to love others more gently, and to discover the indestructible light of compassion that lives within you. 8. You are already whole even when you feel broken. In the quiet depths of sadness, there is often a hidden belief that whispers through your mind, "I am not enough." That voice becomes louder in moments of loss, heartbreak, failure, or uncertainty. It says, "Something is wrong with me. I'm broken. Everyone else is stronger, happier, more together." And when you believe these thoughts, your sadness deepens not because the pain itself is unbearable, but because you start to believe that you are somehow incomplete. But Buddhist wisdom offers a radical and liberating truth. You are already whole, even in your most broken moments. The cracks in your spirit do not make you less. They reveal the light that's always been shining inside you. You are not broken, you are unfolding. In Buddhism, the core of who you are is not your name, your past, your pain, or even your emotions. Beneath all of those shifting experiences lies your true nature, sometimes referred to as Buddha nature. This is the pure, unshakable awareness that was never damaged, never stained, and never lost even when your mind was filled with fear, even when your heart was shattered by grief. You may have been wounded by life. You may have made mistakes. You may feel lost. But none of that changes the essence of who you truly are. Underneath the noise, underneath the sadness, is a calm, sacred stillness. A presence that has watched you through every season of your life, without judgment. That presence, your awareness, is whole. It does not need fixing, it only needs remembering. The problem is not that you are broken. The problem is that you've forgotten your wholeness. Imagine a beautiful mirror covered in layers of dust. Over time, you forget what it looks like. You begin to believe the dust is the mirror, but the dust isn't the truth, it's just what's settled on the surface. Wipe it away, even just a little, and you'll see the original beauty was always there. That's your true self, untouched by pain, hidden behind temporary layers of sadness and confusion. In Buddhist practice, meditation is the act of returning to that mirror. It's the space where you sit, breathe, and peel back the layers of false identity. It doesn't mean you deny your sadness. It means you stop clinging to it. You start seeing that your sadness is like a passing rain cloud and you are the sky it moves through. The sky never becomes the storm. It simply allows the storm to pass. But this isn't just a metaphor, it's a deep truth you can experience directly. The next time you feel overwhelmed by sadness, pause and ask yourself, who is aware of this sadness? Notice how the emotion exists, but there is also something watching it. That watcher is not crying. That watcher is not afraid. That watcher is still. That stillness is who you are. And when you begin to rest in that stillness, the entire relationship you have with pain changes. You no longer say, I am sad. You begin to say, sadness is passing through me. And with that shift, the heaviness softens. The sadness is still there, but you are no longer drowning in it. You are floating, observing, gently allowing. This realization also frees you from seeking validation outside yourself, because once you remember that your worth is already whole, you stop chasing people, achievements, and approval to feel complete. You understand that nothing external can add to your value because your value has never been missing. It was simply buried under layers of illusion. Even in your darkest moments, you are still the entire sky. Even when you feel broken, your light is still glowing. Even when your heart is cracked wide open, that opening can become a doorway to something deeper: compassion, humility, strength, and wisdom. Many of the most awakened people in history, the Buddha included, did not awaken because life was easy. They awakened through suffering, through sitting with their pain, through embracing impermanence, through remembering the truth of who they are when everything else was stripped away. Your sadness is not a curse. It's a calling. It's your soul asking you to return, to stop running, to stop pretending, to sit down with your pain like an old friend and ask, what are you here to teach me? Because every wound contains wisdom, every tear carries a message, and every heartbreak, no matter how unbearable, holds a quiet invitation to wake up. You are not weak for feeling sadness. You are human. You are not wrong for falling apart. Sometimes, the falling is what brings you back to yourself. Sometimes, what you think is breaking you is actually remaking you. Gently, slowly, from the inside out. So, if you feel like you've lost yourself, come back, sit with yourself, be kind to the broken pieces, hold yourself like a mother holds a child. You don't need to rush your healing. You don't need to become someone new. You only need to remember what was never lost. Your wholeness is not something you earn, it's something you realize. And once you see it, truly see it, sadness loses its grip on your soul. Because you know, with every breath, I am already complete. 9. The present moment is your sanctuary from sadness. In every moment of sadness, there is a secret doorway that leads to peace, but most people walk right past it. That doorway is the present moment. Not tomorrow, not yesterday, not the future you fear or the past you regret, but the now, the breath you're taking in this very instant, the sensations moving through your body, the aliveness that exists right here, even beneath the sadness. Buddhist teachings gently guide us back to this truth again and again. The only place you can ever truly live, feel, and heal is now. But the mind, untamed and restless, constantly runs in every direction but here. When sadness grips you, the mind starts building story histories of what went wrong in the past, what you should have done differently, what might go wrong in the future, who left, who hurt you, what you lost, what you may never have again. These thoughts are not just thoughts, they are chains. They bind your soul to time that no longer exists. And the more you replay those mental loops, the further you drift from the one place where peace is possible, the present. Sadness often becomes unbearable not because of what is happening right now, but because of the layers the mind adds to it. A small sadness, such as someone not calling you back suddenly, becomes a story of rejection, abandonment, and self-blame. A difficult experience becomes an identity. I am always the one left behind. Why does this always happen to me? Before you know it, the pain is multiplied not because the present is so unbearable, but because the mind has layered the moment with unnecessary suffering. But Buddhism teaches a radical freedom. You don't have to follow the mind. You don't have to believe everything it says. You can return to now. And now this very moment is always simpler than the story. In this moment, perhaps you're sitting quietly. Maybe you're lying down. Your body is breathing. Your heart is beating. You are alive. And despite everything you've been through, you are still here. You have survived every single moment of pain, every storm, every loss. And here you are again, breathing in this very instant. That is not nothing. That is sacred. Mindfulness, the foundation of Buddhist meditation, is the practice of returning to this sacredness, of choosing to feel the present moment instead of escaping it. You do this by noticing your breath, feeling the ground beneath your feet, listening to the sounds around you, becoming aware of your body, not in judgment, but in presence. When sadness visits, most people tense up. They retreat into their mind, where sadness multiplies. But you don't have to do that. You can soften. You can sit with your sadness not in thought, but in presence. You can say, in this moment, I feel heaviness in my chest. In this moment, my eyes feel tired. In this moment, I am holding pain, but I am still breathing. And that is enough. That is everything. The moment you return to now, sadness begins to lose its grip. It doesn't disappear instantly, but it no longer controls you. You begin to hold it, rather than be held by it. You begin to see it for what it is, a visitor, not a permanent resident. Thich Nhat Hanh, one of the great modern Buddhist teachers, once said, "The present moment is filled with joy and happiness. If you are attentive, you will see it." This doesn't mean every moment will feel joyful. It means that even within your sadness, there are small sparks of peace if you are still enough to notice them. The warmth of sunlight on your skin, the breath entering your body, the silence in the room. A memory that makes you smile. A moment of stillness that reminds you you're okay, even if you're not okay. The beauty of the present moment is that it asks for nothing from you. It doesn't care about your past mistakes. It doesn't need you to be perfect. It welcomes you exactly as you are. It says, you are enough right now. And that alone is deeply healing. You don't have to fix all your problems in this moment. You don't have to solve every sadness. You only have to be here. And being here fully is the first and most important step in any healing journey. As you deepen your awareness of the present, you begin to notice something else. Most of your sadness lives in your thoughts, not in the moment itself. When you stop thinking, even for a second, sadness pauses. There is a silence, a stillness, a space. That space is your doorway out of suffering. That space is who you truly are. In that space, you are not your story. You are not your regret. You are not your fear. You are the awareness that watches it all. And awareness is never broken. It is never afraid. It is never alone. Returning to the present moment doesn't mean pretending everything is fine. It means remembering that you can handle this moment, not the next hour, not tomorrow, just this breath, just this feeling, just this now. And in each now that you face with awareness, sadness becomes softer. It begins to teach rather than torment. It begins to open you instead of closing you. So the next time sadness tightens around your chest, pause, place your hand on your heart, feel the rise and fall of your breath. Let go of the past. Let go of the future. Say to yourself, right now I am here. Right now I am safe. Right now I am enough. Because the truth is, the present moment is not just where your life is, it's where your freedom is. 10. Let go of control and trust the flow of life. There is a deep-rooted illusion in the human mind that clings tighter the more we suffer. It whispers, if I could just control everything, I would never be sad again. We crave control over outcomes, people, emotions, the timing of life, the shape of our future. We want to plan joy, avoid heartbreak, make people stay, keep circumstances predictable. But Buddhism reveals a liberating truth. Control is not peace, it is the source of much suffering. At the heart of all resistance is a subtle demand. This shouldn't be happening. That resistance creates tension in the body, tightness in the breath, and restlessness in the heart. It's a form of inner vara, refusal to accept what life is offering in this moment. And when that resistance meets reality, suffering is born. In Buddhist teaching, this clinging to control is called upadana attachment. It is the mind's desperate attempt to hold what cannot be held, to possess what must pass, to force life into a box it was never meant to fit. And what makes sadness more painful than it needs to be is not the event itself, it's the mind's inability to surrender. You lose someone, and instead of allowing grief to move through you like a river, the mind screams, why did this happen? This isn't fair. This can't be real. And while that grief is natural, the clinging becomes the chain. The refusal to release becomes the prison. Buddhism teaches that peace is not found in mastering life, it is found in flowing with it. Like a leaf floating down a stream, we must learn to trust the movement of things. To realize that just because life isn't going the way we planned, doesn't mean it's going wrong. Sometimes the path that looks like chaos is actually the path of awakening. Sometimes the moment that breaks you is the one that leads you to truth. When you stop trying to control everything, something strange and beautiful happens. You begin to breathe. You begin to soften. You begin to see the world not as your enemy, but as your teacher. The universe is not trying to hurt you, it is trying to evolve you. This doesn't mean you don't take action or make choices. It means you release the attachment to how things must turn out. You do your part with presence and love, but then you surrender the rest. You trust that even if things don't go your way, they will go some way, and that way may carry blessings you cannot yet see. Letting go of control does not mean giving up. It means giving into the wisdom of the moment, the intelligence of the now, the unfolding of a life that is always moving, always changing, always inviting you to grow. Think of nature. The trees do not cling to their leaves in winter. The river does not freeze in fear of where it's headed. The clouds do not resist the wind. Everything flows. Everything lets go. Everything trusts. Why then do we think our peace will come from holding tighter? Letting go is not always easy. The ego will protest. The mind will panic. It will say, but what if I lose everything? What if I fall apart? But Buddhism gently reminds us, sometimes falling apart is where the real healing begins. Sometimes losing control is the only way to finally see clearly. There is a quiet strength that arises when you stop resisting life. It feels like surrender, but it is actually the beginning of deep empowerment. Because when you let go, you stop wasting your energy fighting reality. That energy is now freed for healing, for insight, for creating something new. One powerful practice to help with this surrender is to repeat inwardly during moments of struggle. I release the need to control. I trust this moment. I trust life. I trust myself. Even if your mind doesn't fully believe it at first, your heart will begin to open. And slowly, the need to micromanage the universe fades. You will begin to notice that life becomes softer, not because life changed, but because you did. The same challenges come, but you no longer crumble. The same uncertainty appears, but you face it with steadiness. Because you're no longer trying to grip the river, you're learning to swim with it. The Buddha once said, "Whatever has the nature to arise will also pass away." This means no matter how difficult a moment feels, it cannot last. Every storm has an ending, every emotion rises and fades. And when you truly understand this, you begin to see that you don't need to control every wave, you only need to float. So the next time sadness arrives and you feel the urge to tighten, to grasp, to fix everything, pause. Place your hand over your chest. Close your eyes. Breathe in. Breathe out. And say gently to yourself, I let go. Say it again and again, not as an escape, but as a return to the natural rhythm of life. You will find that sadness still comes, but it flows through you now. It doesn't get stuck. It doesn't become a story. It becomes an experience, pure and real, but no longer destructive. Because when you stop trying to control it, you finally learn how to hold it. And in that sacred holding, you realize a truth so powerful it changes everything. You were never meant to control life. You were meant to trust it. 11. The way out of sadness is through deep inner acceptance. There is a moment in every spiritual journey when the heart breaks not from weakness, but from a deep realization that much of the pain we carry isn't just from the world around us, it's from the battle we've been fighting within ourselves. Buddhist philosophy teaches that the root of much of our sadness is not just loss, disappointment, or grief. It is the refusal to fully accept what is. We resist, we cling, we demand things to be different. We believe that life must follow our terms for us to be okay. And when it doesn't, we turn inward and declare something must be wrong with the world, with others, with us. But here's the liberating truth the Buddha revealed. Suffering ends the moment we stop resisting the present moment and begin to accept it fully, not with resignation, but with presence. What does this acceptance really mean? It means allowing your sadness to exist without labeling it as bad, wrong, or shameful. It means letting go of the belief that you should always be happy, that something is broken when you're not smiling, that emotions are problems to fix. Acceptance is not giving up, it is giving space. It is meeting yourself where you are, not where you wish you were. When a wave of sadness rises, the mind often immediately goes to war. Why am I like this? I should be stronger by now. I need to get rid of this feeling. And so, the mind resists, tightens, and fights. But fighting an emotion only feeds it. It gives the sadness more weight, more tension, more story. Acceptance, on the other hand, is like opening the window in a stuffy room. Suddenly, there is breath, there is space. The sadness is still there, but it's not suffocating. You are no longer trapped in the sadness, you are with it, observing, breathing, allowing. This is what Buddhist meditation teaches us. To sit in stillness, to let every emotion rise like a wave, and to greet it with curiosity instead of judgment. When sadness knocks on the door of awareness, acceptance says, "Come in, sit with me, I'm listening." And something remarkable happens in that moment. The sadness softens. It no longer has to scream to be heard. It no longer has to stay hidden in the corners of the mind. It is seen. And being seen is the beginning of healing. But deep inner acceptance doesn't stop at emotions. It extends to the entire human experience. It means accepting that you will sometimes feel lost, that you won't always have answers, that not every relationship will last, that some dreams will die to make room for better ones, that your past cannot be rewritten, and your future cannot be controlled. It means allowing imperfection to exist within others, within the world, within yourself. You begin to see that peace is not found in fixing every flaw or achieving a perfect life. It is found in making peace with the life you actually have, messy, beautiful, unpredictable, and alive. This kind of acceptance is not passive. It is the foundation of transformation, because when you stop wasting energy fighting the truth, you can finally start working with it. You can start making choices from clarity, not fear. You can begin responding to life with wisdom, not reactivity. Imagine a tree standing in a storm. It does not curse the rain or demand sunshine. It does not try to control the wind. It bends, it yields, and in that yielding, it survives. It remains rooted, even as the world shakes around it. You are that tree. The storm of sadness may come, but your roots, your awareness, your breath, your presence can remain strong as long as you stop fighting the rain. Inner acceptance also brings compassion. You begin to understand that every person you meet is also carrying something heavy. You stop comparing your sadness to theirs. You stop assuming others are more whole, more together, more healed. You realize everyone is healing from something. And in that realization, your heart opens not just to yourself, but to the entire human experience. You stop seeing emotions as enemies. You stop seeing life as a series of problems. You begin to see every moment as a teacher, every emotion as a visitor, every breath as a bridge back to the present. This doesn't mean you will never feel sadness again. It means that when sadness comes, you will know what to do. You will no longer collapse. You will no longer numb or run or panic. You will sit, breathe, listen, accept. And from that acceptance, peace will rise not as a temporary fix, but as a natural state. One of the most powerful meditative phrases in Buddhist practice is, "This is what's happening now. Can I be with this?" Not, "How do I get rid of this?" Not, "Why is this happening to me?" But simply, "Can I be with this?" And the answer, whispered softly from the stillness of your soul, is almost always, yes. Yes, you can be with this breath. Yes, you can hold this sadness. Yes, you can accept this moment without resistance, without fear, without turning away. This is the doorway to liberation. Not escape, not denial, but full-hearted presence. When you stop demanding life to be other than it is, you begin to see the quiet beauty in what already is, even in sadness, even in difficulty, even in the spaces where you once felt broken. Because in that sacred space of acceptance, the most unexpected truth reveals itself. You were never broken. You were only waiting to be seen with love, with patience, with peace. So the next time you feel sadness begin to rise, do not panic, do not fight. Place your hand over your chest, breathe in gently, and whisper to yourself, "I accept this moment, I accept myself." And that is enough. Let that be your refuge, let that be your strength. Let acceptance become the ground on which your healing stands. You do not have to chase happiness, you only need to return to yourself. In the world outside, happiness is constantly advertised as something to chase. It's in the smiles on screens, in the perfect bodies, in the luxury vacations, in the endless scrolling promises of better, more, faster. We are taught from a young age that happiness is something out there, something you earn, build, buy, or deserve. And so we run. We run harder, faster, never stopping. We believe that if we can just achieve enough, heal enough, become enough, then finally we'll be happy. But Buddhist wisdom tells a very different story. It does not ask you to chase happiness. It asks you to stop running altogether. Because the happiness you are chasing with so much exhaustion has never been outside of you. It has always been within. The Buddha taught that the root of all suffering is not just craving but misdirected craving. Wanting something to complete you. Wanting an external solution for an internal emptiness. The problem isn't that you want to feel joy or peace, it's that you believe you have to earn it from the world. You think you have to deserve it by fixing yourself, becoming perfect, achieving more. But what if you didn't need to become anything else? What if you are not missing happiness but missing contact with yourself? This is one of the most powerful insights in Buddhism. You do not need to become anything to be at peace. You only need to return to your true nature. And your true nature is already peaceful, already whole, already filled with a quiet, steady joy, not the kind of joy that explodes with excitement, but the kind that sits calmly in your chest and whispers, "You are enough." So why do we miss this? Because we've forgotten how to be still. We've forgotten how to listen to ourselves. We're so busy chasing versions of happiness shaped by others that we've lost the ability to simply sit with our own being. We don't know what it means to enjoy silence, to feel the breath move through the body, to taste the simplicity of this moment without needing it to be more. We've become addicted to noise, not just the noise around us, but the noise within. And in all that noise, we lose sight of the quiet truth that was always waiting for us. Happiness was never lost, it was only buried beneath layers of distraction, fear, and self-rejection. Returning to yourself doesn't mean becoming selfish. It doesn't mean cutting off the world. It means re-establishing a sacred connection to the part of you that is timeless, still, and free. In Buddhism, this is the path of coming home, not to a place, but to a state of being, to the unshakable awareness behind your thoughts, to the gentle witness beneath your emotions, to the inner sanctuary that sadness and chaos cannot touch. But coming home is not always easy, especially when you've spent years abandoning yourself. You may find pain there, old wounds, feelings you've avoided, truths you've buried. But these are not enemies. These are lost children of your soul, parts of you that were never held with love. And when you return to yourself, you do not judge them. You hold them. You breathe with them. You say, "You are welcome here." And this, in itself, is healing. Because the moment you stop trying to fix yourself and instead begin to accept yourself is the moment sadness begins to soften. It may not vanish immediately, but it loses its control. It stops feeling like a curse. It begins to feel like a companion, a teacher guiding you back to places that still need your attention. You don't have to chase happiness because you are the space where happiness lives. Every moment you spend in presence, in breath, in stillness, in gratitude, happiness begins to arise naturally. Not because something magical happened, but because you stopped covering it up. You stopped running. You stopped doubting that it could be this simple. Thich Nhat Hanh once said, "There is no way to happiness. Happiness is the way." These are not just words. This is a way of living. It means that peace is not a destination at the end of your healing journey. It's a path you walk moment by moment with awareness, with kindness, with simplicity. Every time you stop to breathe deeply, you are already on that path. Every time you smile without reason, listen without agenda, sit in silence without needing to escape, you are walking that path. Every time you forgive yourself, accept this moment, or open your heart despite the pain, you are already home. You don't need to wait until life is perfect. You don't need to be completely healed. You don't need to understand everything or have all the answers. You only need to pause, to return, to be here now. When you stop chasing happiness like a stranger and start welcoming it like an old friend returning home, something inside you shifts. Sadness becomes softer, life becomes lighter. You begin to realize that joy is not a reward for perfect living, it is a result of deep presence. So if you're tired of feeling like something is always missing, if you're exhausted from searching, fixing, chasing, performing, stop, breathe, close your eyes, and simply say to yourself, I don't need to run anymore. I am already home. I am already enough. Let that be your beginning. Let that be your peace. Let that be the place where sadness finally lets go, because you no longer need to fight it. You've remembered who you are, and in that remembrance, joy flows again. Quiet, gentle, unforced, like a river returning to its source, like you're turning to yourself. When you stop resisting your sadness, it becomes your path to awakening. Most people spend their lives running from sadness. It is seen as a threat, a flaw, a weakness to hide. The moment it arrives, we panic, we reach for noise, we look for distraction. We say things like, I need to get over this, I shouldn't feel this way, or something is wrong with me. But Buddhist philosophy invites us into a radically different relationship with sadness. It says, don't run, stay, listen, look deeper. Because your sadness is not here to destroy you, it's here to awaken you. In Buddhist tradition, the most painful emotions are often the most powerful teachers. Not because pain is pleasant, but because pain gets our attention. It forces us to pause, to question, to go inward. In those moments when life feels like it's falling apart, something sacred is happening underneath. You are being called to awaken from your illusions. Sadness shatters illusions of control, of permanence, of egoic self-importance. It humbles us. It brings us face to face with truth. And truth, though uncomfortable at first, is the beginning of liberation. When the Buddha sat beneath the Bodhi tree, he didn't run from discomfort. He didn't reject fear, or push away desire, or suppress his doubts. He sat with them. He faced them. He allowed every emotion to rise and pass, without clinging, without resisting, and in that unwavering stillness, he awoke not just from a personal sadness, but from the illusion of separation itself. This is what your sadness can offer you, not just healing, not just comfort, but awakening. When you stop resisting sadness, when you welcome it like a guest instead of a threat, you begin to notice what lies beneath it. You begin to notice the truth that sadness is pointing toward. Maybe it's a part of you that needs attention, a dream you've outgrown, a relationship that no longer serves you, a wound from childhood still needing closure, a lie you've been telling yourself that no longer feels sustainable. Sadness is not random, it is specific. It arises when something inside you is asking to be truly seen. And when you stop pushing it down, when you finally sit with it, it speaks. And what it says is often softer than you expect. It might say, I want rest. I want to feel loved. I don't want to pretend anymore. I want to stop being so hard on myself. I want to live a simpler life. I want to come home. These whispers are easy to miss when you're busy resisting the sadness, but when you're still, when you breathe, when you listen, you hear them. And in that moment, sadness transforms. It becomes less of a burden and more of a guide. It becomes less of a weight and more of a doorway. This is the great shift. You move from saying, "Why is this happening to me?" to, "What is this showing me?" You move from trying to escape sadness to using it as a mirror. And what it reflects back is not your weakness but your depth, your truth, your readiness to evolve. The path of awakening in Buddhism is not about escaping pain. It is about transforming your relationship to it. It's about realizing that peace is not the absence of emotion but the ability to stay grounded through emotion. And sadness, when met with compassion and presence, becomes one of the most powerful vehicles for that transformation. You begin to understand that your deepest sadness was never a sign of failure. It was a sign of feeling. And the ability to feel deeply is not a curse. It is a gift. A gift that connects you to the suffering of others. A gift that opens the heart. A gift that allows you to move through the world with more humility, empathy, and gentleness. Your sadness does not make you broken, it makes you human, and when embraced, it makes you wise. In Buddhist philosophy, the lotus is a symbol of awakening, but it does not bloom in clean water. It grows through mud, through darkness, through stillness, through surrender. Your sadness is that mud. It is messy, it is heavy, but it is necessary, because it is from that mud that your lotus begins to rise. And when it does, when you rise from your sadness with more awareness, more softness, more truth, you do not return to the same person you were before. You return transformed, not in spite of your sadness, but because of it. This is why sadness must be honored, not erased. It must be sat with, not silenced. It must be held, not hidden. So the next time sadness visits, don't ask how to make it go away. Ask what it wants you to see. Ask what part of you it's trying to bring home. Ask what old belief it's asking you to release. And then sit, not as a victim, but as a student. Let the sadness speak. Let it break what needs to be broken. Let it soften what has grown too hard. Let it carry you not into darkness, but into truth. Because once you stop resisting sadness, you realize it was never here to pull you under. It was here to lift you up, to open your heart, to wake you up, to bring you back to yourself. True healing begins when you stop comparing your journey. One of the most silent thieves of peace is comparison. It creeps in when you least expect it, often disguised as self-improvement, ambition, or motivation. But at its root, it is a form of inner violence, a voice that tells you, you are not enough, because look at them. Buddhism gently unmasks this illusion and offers a softer truth. There is no one else you need to become. You only need to become more deeply yourself. Sadness grows stronger in a mind that constantly compares. You scroll through curated lives online, seeing people who look happier, wealthier, more loved, more whole. You notice friends who seem further along in their careers, relationships, healing, or spiritual practice. And without realizing it, you start to measure your worth against others. You start asking, why am I not there yet? What's wrong with me? How can they be so happy while I'm still struggling? These questions create a quiet ache inside. They disconnect you from your own sacred journey. And the tragedy is this: you begin to grieve a life that was never yours to live. In Buddhist teaching, this habit of comparison is a symptom of dukkha, the unsatisfactoriness that arises when the mind clings to ideals. You create images of how life should be, and when reality doesn't match, suffering follows. But those ideals are illusions. They are stitched together from fragments of others' stories, filtered through their masks and silence. You never truly know what someone else carries. You see their highlight, but not their hidden struggles. You hear their laughter, but not their lonely nights. And so the comparison is not only painful, it is untrue. Your path is yours alone. Your lessons are yours alone. Your healing, your pace, your time in it, is all unfolding according to a wisdom deeper than logic. Just because someone blooms before you doesn't mean you are behind. Just because someone shines now doesn't mean you are failing. In nature, no flower looks at another and says, I should have bloomed by now. It simply opens when it's ready. So must you. There are seasons in your life you cannot rush. There are parts of your soul that are not late. They are simply ripening. And sadness often enters during those seasons not as a punishment, but as a reminder. You are still growing. Not every stage of growth is bright or joyful. Some of it happens in the dark, in silence, in uncertainty. That does not make it any less sacred. The Buddha himself walked a path that no one else could walk for him. He tried teachers, extremes, comforts, and deprivation. And when none of it brought peace, he sat alone under the Bodhi tree and turned inward. His awakening came not from comparing his path to others, but from returning fully to his own. You must do the same. You must stop asking how far along you are and start asking, am I present with where I am? You must stop saying, I should be over this by now, and start saying, this is where my healing is today. You must stop judging your emotions as setbacks and begin seeing them as signposts each, one pointing you back to yourself. This shift doesn't happen overnight. The mind will still compare. But the practice is not to eliminate the thought, it is to stop believing it. Each time it rises, you pause, breathe, and say gently, this path is mine, I trust its pace. You begin to treat your journey not like a race to win, but like a garden to tend. Some days will be rainy, some will be dry. Some days the seeds will sprout. Others, you will see nothing at all. But the growth is always happening, whether you can measure it or not. And here's the beautiful paradox. The moment you stop comparing, sadness softens, because you are no longer adding pressure to your pain. You are no longer asking your heart to heal on someone else's timeline. You are simply being here with what is. And in that presence, healing begins. You don't need to be further along. You don't need to have it all figured out. You don't need to look like anyone else. You only need to breathe, to stay, to trust your own unfolding. Because even now, even in sadness, even when you can't see it clearly, you are becoming. You are not behind. You are exactly where you're meant to be. The more you let go, the lighter your soul becomes. In the quiet teachings of Buddhism, there is a truth that returns again and again like the breath. Letting go is the path to freedom. It is not always a dramatic event. Sometimes it is a whisper. Sometimes it is a small internal surrenderer, loosening of your grip, a deep exhale after years of holding on too tightly. And in that release, something sacred happens. Your sadness begins to lift. Most of the heaviness we carry does not come from what is happening in the present. It comes from the weight of what we're holding, untold stories, broken dreams, unmet expectations, unspoken resentments, regrets we cradle like lifelines, and images of who we thought we were supposed to be. Letting go does not mean forgetting. It does not mean erasing the past or pretending it never mattered. It means allowing things to be as they are, without forcing them to be something else. It means freeing yourself from the illusion that you can control everything. It means choosing peace over perfection. In Buddhism, attachment is often described as the root of suffering. Upadana, or clinging, keeps the cycle of sorrow spinning. It's the mind saying, I need this to stay, I can't be okay without this, I'm not whole unless I have that. But everything in life is impermanent. Everything you love will change, evolve, or pass away. And when you grip too tightly, you suffer not just from the loss but from the resistance. Letting go is the antidote to that suffering. Letting go means stepping into the flow of reality. It means acknowledging that you can't rewrite the past, control the future, or force someone to stay who is meant to leave. It means grieving with open hands, loving without possession, and trusting that what is meant for you will remain and what is not will move on. This practice is not easy, especially in sadness. The mind wants to fix, the heart wants to cling. You replay what happened. You imagine what could have been. You try to hold on to a version of yourself, a version of someone else, a version of life that no longer exists. But Buddhism invites you to do something softer, to bow. To bow to the ending, to the change, to the impermanence, to the uncertainty. To say, yes, I loved. Yes, I tried. Yes, it mattered. And now I release. When you let go, you are not losing something. You are making space for stillness, for clarity, for something new to arrive. As long as your hands are full of what was, they cannot receive what could be. Letting go is not a moment, it is a practice. You let go again and again of the thought that loops, of the emotion that clings, of the story that haunts. You don't rush it, you don't force it. You simply breathe. And in each breath, you loosen the knot. You let go of needing others to understand your pain. You let go of the timeline your healing should follow. You let go of waiting for an apology that may never come. You let go of who you were before the sadness. You let go of the illusion that you are behind. You let go of needing the world to validate your worth. And as you let go, you rise. You begin to feel lighter, not because life is suddenly perfect, but because you're no longer weighed down by what you can't change. You're no longer dragging yesterday into today. You're standing in the present with empty hands and an open heart. This is the freedom the Buddha spoke of. Not a life without sadness, but a life where sadness flows through you without drowning you, where you learn to love without owning, to feel without clinging, to experience without controlling. Letting go allows you to move through life like water fluid, open, resilient. You no longer resist the current, you become it. And in that surrender, peace comes, not as a reward, but as your natural state. So the next time sadness rises, ask yourself, what am I holding on to right now? A thought, a hope, a memory, a version of someone that no longer exists. Then breathe and say gently, I see you, I honor you, and I set you free. Letting go is not forgetting. It is remembering yourself without the burden. It is stepping out of the storm you've been holding in your chest. It is returning to your breath, your body, your truth. The more you let go, the lighter your soul becomes. And one day, without even realizing it, you'll wake up, feel the sun on your skin, and smile. Not because everything is perfect, but because you are no longer carrying what was never meant to stay. Peace is not found in escaping the world, but in embracing it fully with awareness. Many who seek peace begin with a secret wish: to escape noise, to escape conflict, to escape pain, to escape the demands of life and the sadness that seems to follow it. It's understandable when life becomes overwhelming. The idea of retreating into silence, isolation, or distraction feels comforting. But in Buddhist philosophy, the path to true peace is not about leaving the world behind. It is about stepping fully into the world with deep, unwavering awareness. It is easy to believe that peace is only possible if you remove all stresses from your life. That if you could just get away from difficult people, chaotic environments, emotional triggers, and daily demands, you could finally be calm. But this mindset creates a fragile peace, one that depends on perfect conditions. And as long as your peace is dependent on conditions, it will always be unstable because conditions are always changing. The Buddha never taught escape. He taught presence. He lived in the world, walked among the sick, spoke with kings and beggars, faced criticism and praise, heat and hunger, solitude and community. His peace did not come from avoidance, it came from a deep, abiding awareness that embraced each moment as it was. This awareness is what transforms life, not by changing it, but by changing how you meet it. When sadness comes, instead of turning away, you turn toward it. You breathe with it. You feel the texture of it in your chest. You observe the thoughts it triggers, the memories it stirs, the stories it carries. And you do all of this without resistance, without judgment, without needing to push it away or make it disappear. You meet it with awareness. This meeting is not passive, it is courageous, because facing your pain takes more strength than fleeing from it. To sit with your sorrow without collapsing into it, to breathe through the discomfort without suppressing it, to say, I can be present with this. Even when your heart is breaking, that is the path of the awakened one. You begin to understand that peace is not found in the absence of emotion, but in the presence of awareness. You might still feel grief, but you are not consumed by it. You might still feel fear, but you are not paralyzed by it. You might still face difficulty, but your inner center remains unshaken. This is the power of mindfulness. Mindfulness is not about silencing the mind or controlling your emotions. It is about watching them with such clarity and openness that their grip begins to loosen. They stop being forces that dominate you and become waves that pass through you. The more you practice this awareness, the more you begin to realize something sacred. Life does not need to change for you to be at peace. Your mind does. You don't need a quieter room. You need a quieter presence within that room. You don't need fewer problems. You need more inner spaciousness to meet them. You don't need to escape sadness. You need to sit beside it like a calm friend, listening without panic. This shift from escape to embrace is what turns suffering into growth and sadness into wisdom. You begin to see that every moment is your practice, waiting in traffic, washing dishes, walking in the rain, sitting in grief, laughing with friends. All of it becomes sacred not because it's extraordinary, but because you are fully present for it. This is what it means to live the Dharma, not to float above life, but to walk through it barefoot, awake and open-hearted. To feel pain and still bow. To feel loss and still love. To feel tired and still breathe with intention. To feel broken and still trust the unfolding. Peace is not found in hiding from the world. It is found in being fully alive in it, with your heart open and your awareness steady. So the next time you find yourself wanting to escape, pause, close your eyes. Inhale deeply, exhale slowly, and say softly to yourself, I do not need to run, I only need to return. Return to the moment. Return to the breath. Return to the silent witness within you, the one who is never overwhelmed, never lost, never broken. Because the world will keep moving, the waves will keep rising, the emotions will keep shifting. But you are learning to meet it all with stillness. You are learning to carry the world without letting it carry you away. This is peace, not in escape, but in full-hearted, grounded, embodied awareness. And it has been within you all along. You are the sky, not the storm. How to rest in awareness and transcend sadness. There is a story often told in Buddhist circles quietly, almost as a whisper. A student approaches a revered monk, tears in his eyes, burdened by grief. His voice shakes as he asks, Master, how do I escape my sadness? It follows me everywhere I go. The monk, calm and grounded, smiles gently and says, You don't need to escape the sadness. You only need to remember, you are not the sadness. You are the sky it moves through. At first, this answer may seem poetic, beautiful, yes, but abstract. But this teaching is not symbolic. It is the very heart of Buddhist understanding. It reveals a truth that, when deeply realized, can unchain you from suffering not just for a moment, but for life. You are not the storm. You are the sky. But what does that mean? It means this. Beneath all the changing emotions, thoughts, and experiences, beneath all the sadness, fear, joy, and longing, there is something in you that never changes. That stillness, that awareness, that quiet observer behind your every breath, that is who you are. You may feel sadness move through you like thunder in your chest, but you, the true you, remain untouched by it. You witness it, you hold it, you are aware of it, but you are not it. This realization does not come from thinking, it comes from stillness, from sitting with yourself long enough, honestly enough, gently enough, until the noise quiets, and you hear it, that silence behind the storm. This is the foundation of non-identification, one of the most liberating teachings in Buddhist philosophy. Let's explore this deeply. The illusion of identification. Most people suffer not just because they feel pain, but because they identify with it. They believe, I am sad. Not, I am experiencing sadness, but I am sadness. The same with fear, anger, shame, or confusion. The emotion arises, and the mind wraps itself around it. It becomes personal. It becomes identity. And identity is sticky. Once you believe you are the emotion, you begin to live through it. You act from it. You see the world through its lens. Everything becomes colored by its presence. You don't just feel sadness, you become sadness looking out through your eyes. This is where suffering grows deep roots. But Buddhist awareness teaches us to create space between experience and self, to say, this is sadness, it is visiting me, it is not who I am. This isn't denial, it's clarity. You are aware of sadness. And anything you are aware of cannot be you, because the observer is always separate from the observed. When you begin to disidentify from your sadness, it does not mean the sadness disappears instantly, but its weight softens. It becomes a guest knot, a tyrant, a cloud knot, a prison. You begin to realize that it can move through you without destroying you. You do not need to push it away or drown in it. You simply witness. And this witnessing is not passive, it is powerful. It is the difference between being lost in the forest and standing on a hill, calmly watching the trees sway. The practice of resting in awareness. How do you reach this place of clarity? Not through striving, not through fixing, but through resting in awareness. This is the essence of vipassana, or insight meditation. The practice is not to force peace, but to see clearly, to watch the movements of your inner world without judgment, to let thoughts rise and fall. Emotions come and go, sensations shift and dissolve, and through this, to begin recognizing the one constant, awareness itself. You might sit in meditation, eyes closed, feeling the ache of grief in your chest. At first, your mind might spiral. Why do I still feel this way? What's wrong with me? But instead of believing the thoughts, you practice noticing them. Ah, here is a thought. Here is the tightness. Here is the emotion. You watch them arise. You breathe. You soften. You sit not as the one being overwhelmed, but as the one witnessing the overwhelm. And slowly, something begins to change. The emotion still moves, but your center remains still. Like the Buddha sitting beneath the Bodhi tree as Marahi's own inner demonstrated to shake him with fear, desire, and doubt. He did not fight. He did not flee. He sat. He watched. He touched the earth. He remained. This is your practice too, to remain. Not frozen, not passive, but deeply, quietly awake. When sadness comes, you do not chase it away. You do not drown in it. You sit, you breathe. You remember, this is not who I am. This is what is moving through me. And in that remembering, something sacred opens. A stillness, a spaciousness, a light. The sky is always present. No matter how heavy the storm, the sky never disappears. It is always there, vast, open, quiet, free. You may feel sorrow crash through you like lightning. You may feel grief pour from your eyes like rain. But if you close your eyes, take a breath, and turn inward, you will find it. The sky. that endless open awareness behind all your feelings. And once you touch that space, sadness changes. It may still visit, but it no longer owns you. It may still move, but it no longer defines you. You begin to live from the sky, not from the storm. And life, in all its complexity, becomes lighter not because it is easier, but because you are no longer carrying it alone. You are resting in something larger. You are held by something deeper. You are rooted in something eternal. Living from the sky. This awareness is not just for meditation cushions or mountaintops. It is for life. When someone says something hurtful, you pause, breathe, feel the sting, and return to the sky. When you feel anxiety rise, you sit, notice the breath, and return to the sky. When you feel like giving up, you place your hand over your heart, whisper, "This too will pass," and return to the sky. This is your power, to remain present in chaos, to remain still in motion, to remain whole in brokenness. Because you are not the emotion, you are not the thought, you are not the circumstance. You are the sky, and the sky cannot be broken. Final reflection. So when sadness visits again, and it will do not ask how to escape it. Instead, ask, can I sit with this just as it is? Can I feel this without becoming it? Can I hold this sadness without letting go of myself? And then breathe. Breathe with the storm. Let the clouds come. Let the rain fall. Let the wind howl. And know you are still here. Not lost. Not ruined. But vast. Open. Awake. Unshakable. Because the storm is only a moment. But the sky? The sky is forever. Stop trying to be okay all the time. Let the waves carry you back to peace. In the pursuit of peace, we often fall into a hidden trap, the desperate need to always be okay, to always feel balanced, strong, calm, wise, and unshaken. It sounds nobly admirable even. But beneath this quiet ambition is a subtle form of rejection, the belief that certain emotions are wrong, unspiritual, or dangerous. In Buddhist philosophy, however, real peace is not found in always being okay. It is found in making peace with not being okay. There's a river in every human life, sometimes calm, sometimes raging. You cannot control its current, its depth, or its temperature. All you can do is learn to float. And floating begins with surrender. But surrender, in this sense, is not giving up. It is giving into the moment, to the body, to the emotion, to the breath. It is saying, this is what I feel now. I will not fight it. I will not pretend. I will be here with it. That willingness to be with what is not, what you wish it were is, what transforms the heaviness of sadness into the gentleness of understanding. The myth of constant equanimity. There is a common misunderstanding among seekers that spiritual growth will lead to a life free of difficulty, free of sadness, free of emotional turbulence. But if you look closely at the life of the Buddha, you will see a different story. After his awakening, the Buddha still experienced grief. He still felt loss. He still saw suffering in the world and was moved by it. What changed was his relationship to the waves. He no longer resisted them. He no longer believed they were punishments or signs of failure. He let them come, let them pass, and remained rooted in awareness. We too can learn this. But first, we must drop the expectation that awakening means emotional perfection. Peace is not being numb. Peace is allowing yourself to be fully humanto, cry, to falter, to ache and yet remain gently present with it all. Trying to be okay all the time is exhausting. It creates shame around your sadness, guilt around your grief, and pressure on your spirit. The moment you feel low, your mind reacts. I shouldn't be feeling this. What's wrong with me? I've been meditating. I've been healing. Why am I still struggling? But those questions come not from truth, but from resistance. The belief that emotional waves are a step backward. Buddhism teaches us that these waves are not regressions, they are part of the path. Emotions are not problems, they're pathways. Each emotion carries wisdom. Fear reveals attachment. Sadness reveals the depth of your love. Anger reveals boundaries that were crossed. Loneliness reveals the longing for connection not just with others, but with your own presence. When you stop trying to fix emotions and start listening to them, they become sacred messengers. Instead of asking, "How do I make this go away?" ask, "What is this here to teach me?" You may find that your sadness is asking you to slow down, to grieve something you never fully acknowledged, to release control, to rest, to simplify, to reconnect. These are not small lessons, these are invitations into deeper truth. And they can only be heard when you stop trying to be okay and start being honest. The tears you hold back are not strength. The emotions you silence are not maturity. The moments you pretend to be fine are not spiritual milestones. True strength is found in softness. True maturity is found in vulnerability. True spiritual depth is found in presence with everything. You are not a project to fix. Many people live their entire lives as if they are broken machines, always tweaking, always repairing, always judging, always working on themselves. But the self is not a machine. The self is a living, breathing process unfolding in real time. You do not need to become something to be whole. You already are whole, you are just unfolding into deeper expressions of that wholeness. And part of that expression includes sadness, confusion, tiredness, uncertainty. Stop treating your emotions as bugs in your system. Start treating them as weather in your sky. They do not mean you've failed. They mean you're alive. They mean you feel. They mean you're still learning. In Buddhism, there is no final version of yourself to reach. No perfected state where pain disappears forever. There is only the practice, the breath, the presence, the witnessing. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are simply being, and that is enough. Let the waves move you without drowning you. There's a story of a monk who was asked, "How do you deal with sadness when it overwhelms you?" He replied, "I don't deal with it. I feel it. I breathe with it. I let it wash over me, and when it's done, it leaves, and I am still here." This is the lesson. You don't have to master your emotions. You only have to stop resisting them. Picture yourself floating in a river. The current pulls. Sometimes it's gentle, sometimes rough. You don't fight. You don't flail. You allow. You adjust. You trust. And in trusting the movement, you stay afloat. This is not passivity. This is spiritual intelligence. The waves are not your enemy. They are part of your healing. They break down what no longer serves you. They soften the places you've hardened. They cleanse what you've carried for too long. But only if you let them. Only if you stop tightening. Only if you stop pretending to be okay. Let yourself be moved. Let yourself be undone. Let yourself be real. There is more peace in one honest breath than in years of forced positivity. There is more clarity in one tear accepted than in 1,000 fake smiles. There is more awakening in one moment of surrender than in a lifetime of control. Trust the rhythm of your inner seasons. Everything in nature moves through seasons. Trees don't bloom all year. Rivers don't flow at the same speed. The moon doesn't shine at full brightness every night. Why should you? There will be times of expansion and times of contraction, times of clarity and times of confusion, times of energy and times of exhaustion, times of light and times of shadow. You are not meant to be one way all the time. You are meant to move, to change, to cycle just like everything else in the universe. The more you resist this, the more you suffer. But the more you align with your natural rhythm, the more at peace you become even in your sadness. Let yourself have seasons. Let yourself be winter when you need to be. Let yourself slow down, retreat, reflect. You are not broken in your sadness. You are simply between blooms. You are not behind in your stillness. You are simply gathering strength. You are not weak in your rest. You are simply returning to your roots. This is the wisdom of nature, and you are nature. So stop trying to be okay all the time. Be honest. Be soft. Be real. Be here. Healing happens in silence, the sacred power of sitting with yourself. There is a kind of healing that does not come through advice, analysis, or achievement. It does not come from fixing problems, chasing goals, or filling your life with more noise. It comes, instead, from something the world often forgets how to offer: silence. In Buddhism, silence is not emptiness. It is presence. It is depth. It is the stillness underneath all your noise. And it is in this stillness that true healing begins, not forced, not rushed, but naturally, like dawn rising over a mountain that hasn't moved in thousands of years. You see, most people are afraid of silence because they've never truly entered it. They've only experienced the absence of distraction, not the presence of awareness. They think silence is loneliness. But Buddhist practice shows us something radically different. Silence is not the absence of sound. It is the presence of space. It is the presence of you, without the roles, without the masks, without the defenses. Just you, as you are. And that sacred meeting between you and yourself is where sadness begins to unravel, where confusion begins to quiet, where grief finally gets heard, and where your soul begins to soften into peace. The wounds that words cannot reach. There are wounds within you that language cannot describe. No quote can reach them. No explanation can dissolve them. These are the silent aches, the heartbreaks you carried in your body, the grief stored in your bones, the loneliness buried under years of pretending to be okay. You may have tried to talk about them. You may have shared, journaled, vented, analyzed. But some parts of you are not meant to be fixed through words. They are meant to be held in silence. Because silence doesn't try to solve. It doesn't interrupt. It doesn't judge. It simply holds. When you sit in stillness, you allow these deeper wounds to surface, not for the purpose of controlling them, but for the purpose of feeling them completely, maybe for the first time. The anger you've suppressed, the sadness you never let finish, the exhaustion you kept pushing through, all of them begin to rise. And in that rising, you are given a choice: to turn away or to remain. Buddhist meditation asks only that you remain, to breathe, to witness, to allow, to meet what arises with presence, not panic. And in that meeting, something sacred happens. The wound begins to soften, not because you fixed it, but because you stopped rejecting it. You stopped saying, "This shouldn't be here." You stopped asking, "When will this go away?" You simply sat, and in that sitting, healing began. Why silence feels so uncomfortable at first? When you first sit in silence, it can feel unbearable. The mind begins to scream. Thoughts flood in. Every emotion you pushed aside rises to the surface. The mind asks, "What's the point of this? Shouldn't I be doing something productive?" But this discomfort is not a sign of failure. It is a sign that you are finally touching what has been hidden. The mind isn't panicking because silence is wrong. It's panicking because it's unfamiliar. For so long, you've measured your worth through doing, solving, producing, achieving. Sitting in silence strips that away. It shows you are not your accomplishments. You are not your appearance. You are not your progress. You are presence itself. And presence needs no justification. There's no performance in stillness, no reward, no praise. There is only you and the breath and the space that holds you both. This is why silence heals. Because it reconnects you to the parts of you that don't need fixing, the parts of you that are not wounded, the parts of you that have always been whole but were drowned beneath the noise of trying to become. Silence is not emptiness, it's return. In Buddhism, the most sacred moments are often wordless: a monk sweeping the floor, a teacher sipping tea in a quiet room, a student bowing before a statue of the Buddha. These are not meaningless rituals. They are acts of returning to the now, to the breath, to the stillness that holds everything together. When you sit with yourself in silence, you are doing the same. You are returning to your body not as a problem to solve, but as a home to inhabit. You are returning to your sadness not as a mistake to erase, but as a teacher to sit with. You are returning to your breath not as an unconscious function, but as the thread that ties you to life itself. And in this returning, something ancient awakens. You begin to remember. You remember what it's like to just be, to not perform, to not protect, to not pretend, just to sit, just to breathe, just to exist. And slowly, quietly, gently, your nervous system calms. Your mind begins to quiet. The storm inside you begins to pass. Not because you forced it, but because you gave it space. You do not need to understand everything to heal. One of the deepest lies we believe is that we must understand our sadness to release it. We search for causes, stories, labels, diagnoses. We try to name everything, define everything, explain everything. But healing is not always logical. Some pain is older than language. Some wounds are generational, ancestral, spiritual. Some feelings rise not to be explained, but to be felt. Silence gives you permission to stop explaining. You no longer need to ask, "Why am I like this?" You no longer need to fix your sadness like it's a puzzle. You simply need to sit and let your body speak in its own language. Let your breath soften the tension. Let your awareness hold the sorrow. Let the tears come because you figured it out, but because you finally stopped running. This is healing. This is the wisdom of silence. The stillness beneath the surface. Imagine a vast lake on a windless day. Its surface is still, glass-like, reflecting the sky, but just beneath there are currents, layers, movements invisible to the eye. When the wind stirs, ripples form. The surface shifts, but the depth, the true depth of the lake remains calm. You are this lake. Your surface may ripple, your thoughts may churn, your sadness may stir like storm clouds above. But beneath all of it, there is a depth that remains untouched. That depth is your awareness. When you sit in silence, you return to this depth. You let the surface move without trying to still it. And in time, the winds settle on their own. Not because you stopped them, but because you no longer believed you had to. This is why monks, sages, and ordinary seekers throughout time have returned to silence again and again, not to escape life, but to touch the truth beneath it. That no matter what you are feeling, no matter what story your mind tells, no matter how loud the pain, there is a place within you that is already at peace. It has been waiting, not for more knowledge, not for better habits, not for healing tools, just for your presence, just for your return, just for you to sit down, take a breath, and say, "I'm here, I'm listening, and I'm not leaving myself again." The moment you stop seeking is the moment you find everything. There's a quiet ache inside almost every human being, a longing, a hunger, a pull towards something we cannot quite name. We seek answers, we seek peace, we seek purpose. We seek love, safety, stability, clarity. We chase it in books, in gurus, in relationships, in careers, in routines. This seeking drives entire lifetimes. But what if the very act of seeking is what keeps us from finding? In Buddhist philosophy, there is a powerful truth often overlooked. The more you chase peace, the more it escapes you. But when you stop running after it, you realize it was always within you. To the mind, this seems impossible. How can you find what you've stopped looking for? Isn't life about progress, about striving, about moving towards something better? Yes, but not in the way the mind thinks. There is a difference between growth and grasping. Growth is natural. Like a tree reaching toward the sun, it doesn't force itself to grow. It doesn't judge its slowness. It expands because it is alive, because it is rooted, because it is in harmony with its nature. Grasping, on the other hand, is frantic. It believes something is missing. It comes from lack, not life. It says, I need this to be complete. I must find something to fix me. I cannot rest until I have what I want. This is the root of suffering. Buddhism teaches that clinging even to enlightenment, it creates distance from the very thing we long for. The moment you believe that peace, happiness, or truth is somewhere else, you separate yourself from it. And that separation becomes your suffering. But when you stop, when you breathe, when you drop the chase and return to this moment, you discover something profound. What you were looking for is already here. It's not in the next insight. It's in the space between your thoughts. It's not in the next meditation session. It's in the simple act of noticing your breath. It's not in the next book or teaching. It's in the awareness reading these words right now. The seeking ends not because you've given up, but because you've finally arrived. The illusion of there. There is a story of a monk who walked across deserts, mountains, and jungles in search of awakening. He visited hundreds of teachers, collected countless teachings, fasted, meditated, isolated himself. But still, peace eluded him. One day, tired and disheartened, he collapsed beneath a tree. In the silence, he whispered, I give up. And in that very moment, the truth struck him not as a word, but as a presence. It was never there. It was always here. The idea that peace is out there in some perfect future moment is one of the deepest illusions of the mind. It keeps us moving, chasing, achieving, but never arriving. You may say to yourself, I'll be happy when I heal this wound. I'll be at peace once I stop feeling sad. I'll be fulfilled when I find my purpose. But these are moving targets. The moment you reach one, another appears. This is the cycle of samsara, the endless wheel of desire and dissatisfaction. Buddhist wisdom does not ask you to stop growing, it asks you to wake up to the present. Because the joy you're seeking is not a goal, it's a state of being. And that state is only accessible now. Now is where your breath is. Now is where your body is. Now is where your peace is. Every second you spend seeking pulls you away from the now. But every moment you stop, you return. The still point of fulfillment. In the center of every storm, there is a still point. In the heart of every question, there is silence. In the core of every being, there is presence. This presence is not something you create. It is something you uncover. It is always here. It was here before the sadness, before the craving, before the identity. And it will remain after all those things fade. When you stop seeking, you make space for this presence to rise. It doesn't shout. It doesn't demand. It simply is. It feels like home. It feels like stillness. It feels like nothing is missing, because nothing is. The Buddha found this not by acquiring something new, but by sitting still under a tree and seeing clearly. His journey was not outward. It was inward, into silence, into surrender, into truth. You can take this same journey right now, not by going anywhere, not by fixing anything, but by pausing, by becoming deeply still, by letting go of the belief that you must chase anything to be whole. And in that stillness, in that surrender, In that radical non-seeking, you return to what has always been here. You return to yourself. Why the mind fears stopping? The mind does not like silence. It fears stillness. It says, if I stop, I'll fall behind. If I stop, I'll miss something. If I stop, I'll be stuck forever. But the truth is this, you are already here. You're not behind. You're not late. You're not lost. You are only being asked to stop reaching and to feel the ground beneath you, to feel the breath moving in and out of your body, to feel the life pulsing through your fingertips, to notice the awareness behind your thoughts. This is where life is. This is where peace lives. This is what every path is trying to point you toward. And the doorway has always been open. The moment you stop believing you need to get somewhere else is the moment you realize you're already home. From seeking to trusting. Letting go of seeking does not mean letting go of growth. It means letting go of desperation. It means no longer thinking, I need this to be okay. Instead, it means living from a place of trust. Trust that you are where you're meant to be. Trust that your path will unfold, moment by moment. Trust that even your sadness, confusion, or stillness has value. Trust that when you drop the chase, life will begin to come to you. This is not passivity, this is openness. This is not stagnation, this is allowing. You still act, you still love, you still move. But you are no longer running from lack. You are flowing from fullness. You have nothing to prove, nothing to grasp, nothing to seek, only to be, fully, presently, here. Let the seeking fall away. Right now, as you read these words, pause. Take a slow breath. Let it out gently. Notice the space between the inhale and the exhale. That space is not empty. It is filled with presence. It is filled with peace. It is filled with everything you've been chasing. And it is already yours. Let the thoughts come. Let the emotions rise. Let the desires whisper. But let the seeking fall away. Sit, breathe, be, and watch with awe as the very thing you've been chasing quietly rises within you, like the sun appearing behind clouds that were never solid to begin with. You do not need to seek peace. You are peace. You do not need to seek truth. You are awareness. You do not need to seek love. You are love remembering itself. You were never meant to hold it all, learning the art of gentle release. There comes a point on every journey, spiritual or otherwise, when you stop, not because you are finished, but because you are tired of carrying what was never yours to hold forever. You've been strong for too long. You've smiled through storms, stood tall when your heart was heavy, and kept going when everything inside you begged for rest. And yet, no one taught you how to put the weight down. In Buddhist philosophy, this is where true compassion begins, not just for others, but for yourself, because you were never meant to carry it all. Some burdens aren't yours. Some were passed down unknowingly, generational pain, cultural expectations, emotional debris from others. Some burdens are the weight of old selves you've outgrown. Others are stories you've told yourself for so long that they became part of your identity. But just because you've carried them for years doesn't mean you need to carry them one more moment. Letting go doesn't mean you don't care. It means you care deeply, but you choose not to suffer. Letting go doesn't mean you forget. It means you stop allowing the memory to define you. Letting go doesn't mean giving up. It means giving into the natural flow of impermanence, to the wisdom of surrender, to the sacred rhythm of release. And so, there comes a time when you look at everything in your hands, every responsibility, every pressure, every sorrow, every unhealed wound, and you ask softly, do I need to keep holding this? The quiet weight of emotional hoarding. Much like a house filled with clutter, Your inner world can become crowded with emotional leftovers, regret, old guilt, unspoken fears, dreams that didn't come true, words never said. And all of it quietly accumulates, pressing down on your body, tightening your breath, dimming your light. Buddhism teaches that attachment is the root of suffering, and this applies not just to people or things, but to emotions and identities. We cling to pain because it's familiar. We clutch onto grief because we believe it honors the loss. We hold on to anger because it gives us a sense of power. We trap ourselves in sadness because we think it's who we are. But you are not your past. You are not your wounds. You are not the pain you once held to survive. You are the awareness behind those experiences. And when you remember that, you realize you have the power not to erase the past, but to stop carrying its weight. Release is not a moment. It's a practice. We often imagine letting go as a single moment of epiphany. One breath, and everything vanishes. But release is more like a slow unraveling, a daily choosing, a quiet return. You may begin by simply noticing, what am I still holding? Perhaps it's an apology you never received, a future you never got to live, a version of yourself you thought you had to become. And once you notice, you begin the practice not of throwing it away, but of placing it gently down. Sometimes that looks like forgiveness. Sometimes it's tears. Sometimes it's silence. Sometimes it's writing a letter you'll never send. Sometimes it's just a single breather, full exhale that says, I release this now. In Buddhist meditation, each breath becomes an offering of release. Inhale, awareness. Exhale, surrender. Not because you're trying to fix anything, but because you're learning to trust that you are safe without all the armor. And as you release layer by layer, you don't become less. You become more yourself, more free, more light, more alive. The body keeps what the mind tries to forget. It's easy to believe that your suffering is only in the mind, but the body remembers everything. Every uncried tear, every held breath, every time you said, I'm fine, when you weren't. When you sit in stillness, the body begins to speak. Tightness in the chest may whisper of old grief. Tension in the shoulders may carry decades of responsibility. Clenched jaws may echo anger that was never expressed. These are not problems, they are invitations. The body is not trying to betray you, it's trying to show you where you're still holding. And the moment you listen, the moment you soften into the pain without resistance, that's when release begins. Sometimes release happens through movement, a deep stretch, a mindful walk, a trembling cry. Sometimes it happens through stillness, a breath held just a little longer, a hand placed gently over the heart, a moment of surrender to the emotion as it moves through. Letting go is not just mental, it is embodied. And when the body lets go, the soul begins to sing again. The grace of no longer needing to be everything. One of the heaviest burdens you might carry is the belief that you must be everything to everyone, that you must be the strong one, the fixer, the calm one, the successful one, the wise one, the one who always knows what to say, how to act, what to feel. But Buddhism teaches the middle way, the path of balance. And balance requires that you learn when to hold on and when to lay down the weight. You don't have to carry everyone. You don't have to solve everything. You don't have to understand every feeling before you let it go. You don't have to be perfect to be peaceful. You just have to be honest. Honest about your limits. Honest about your pain. Honest about what no longer fits inside the person you are becoming. And in that honesty, you free yourself. You give yourself permission to be human, not superhuman, not enlightened overnight, just real. Real and soft and steady. Letting go is not failure. It is faith in the wisdom of emptiness, in the generosity of the present moment, in the promise that what you release creates room for what is meant for you. Returning to the open hand. In Buddhist imagery, the closed fist represents attachment, tension, fear. The open hand represents peace, generosity, surrender. And so, the invitation is simple. Open your hands. Not because you don't care, but because you care enough to stop clinging. Let what's ready to go, go. Let what's complete be complete. Let the weight you've carried out of duty, out of habit, out of fearest. Place it down, not with guilt, not with shame, but with gratitude. Thank it for what it taught you. Thank it for how it helped you survive. And then walk forward lighter. Not because you escaped your past, but because you finally understood you are not obligated to carry everything that once mattered. You are allowed to grow. You are allowed to outgrow. You are allowed to be new. And the more you let go, the more you remember. You were never meant to hold it all. The deepest peace comes when you stop running from yourself. There is a silence we avoid, a mirror we fear, a doorway we pass again and again, pretending not to see it, because on the other side waits something we're not sure we're ready for. Ourselves. Not the version we show others, not the version we post online or project into our roles, but the raw, unfiltered self, the tender self, the bruised self, the self beneath the masks and beyond the stories. In Buddhist practice, this return to the self is not an optional step, it is the whole path. Because no matter how far you search outwardly, the deepest peace only comes when you stop running from yourself. The Buddha did not become awakened by chasing external perfection. He became awakened by turning inward, by sitting still under the Bodhi tree, facing the full weight of his inner world, his fears, his desires, his doubts, his pain. He did not escape them. He met them. And in that meeting, he discovered the one thing no one could give him from the outside: freedom. You can do the same. But first, you must stop running. The many ways we run. Running from yourself doesn't always look dramatic. Sometimes it looks like busyness, always having something to do, something to fix, something to scroll, something to chase. Sometimes it looks like productivity-making lists, setting goals, achieving milestones without ever asking, who am I when I'm not achieving? Sometimes it looks like spirituality itself, always reading, always learning, always reaching for the next insight, without sitting long enough to feel the truth that's already here. And sometimes it's more subtle, avoiding silence, avoiding stillness, avoiding mirrors, avoiding people who truly see you, avoiding emotions that bubble up when you pause long enough to listen. But no matter how fast or far you run, you can never outrun what lives inside of you. Sadness waits, fear waits, longing waits, and most of all your truth waits. It doesn't wait to punish you. It waits because it loves you. It waits because it is you. And the moment you stop running, it opens its arms not to wound you, but to welcome you home. Why we fear our own depth. Many people are afraid of what they'll find if they sit with themselves too long, afraid of what might rise, what memories might surface, what truths might demand attention. The fear is this: what if I can't handle what's inside me? But Buddhism teaches that this fear is not truth, it is conditioning. You were not born afraid of yourself. You were taught to be, taught to suppress, to smile through the pain, to perform strength, to be good, to be normal, to be easy to digest. So you locked away your anger. You buried your grief. You silenced your joy. You minimized your needs. And piece by piece, the true self became hidden beneath layers of roles, expectations, and survival. But the true self never left. It only waited. And now, if you're still and brave enough, you can begin to return to it. Not with shame, not with analysis, with presence, with listening, with love, sitting with what arises. In Buddhist meditation, the instruction is simple: sit, breathe, observe. But this simplicity is powerful, because when you sit with no agenda, with no desire to fix or escape, the surface noise begins to quiet, and then your inner world begins to rise. Thoughts, images, emotions, sensations, all the things you've pushed down, all the parts of you that haven't been felt fully, they come not to harm you, but to be released through awareness. And here, you discover a truth. You do not need to be afraid of your inner world. You are not broken. You are not too much. You are not beyond repair. What rises in stillness is not a sign of weakness, it's a sign of healing. Your body remembers, your heart remembers, your soul remembers. And when you finally stop and give it space, it begins to speak. Sometimes in sadness, sometimes in clarity, sometimes in trembling silence. But it speaks, and your only job is to listen, not to fix, not to control, to witness, to be the open space where healing can unfold. You are not your past, but you must sit with it. One of the reasons we run from ourselves is because we are haunted by the past, things we regret, things we endured, things we wish we had done differently. We think, if I go inward, I'll drown in my memories. But Buddhist wisdom doesn't ask you to relive your past. It asks you to hold it with compassion. You do not need to change the past. You only need to change how you meet it now. Instead of seeing your younger self as a failure, you can see them as someone who was doing the best they could with what they knew. Instead of seeing your past pain as a curse, you can see it as a chapter that shaped you but does not define you. You are not the same person who suffered. You are the one who survived. You are the one who is sitting here now, breathing, reading, still open to life. That alone is a miracle. And it deserves to be honored not with judgment, but with tenderness. This is what it means to stop running, to sit with your past not as a prisoner, but as a witness, not to punish yourself, but to reclaim your power. To hold the pain not in clenched fists, but in open hands. And in that holding, you begin to heal, not by forgetting, but by seeing and letting go. What you've been chasing is already within you. Every desire, every craving, every dream at its root is a longing to return to yourself. You think you want success, but what you really want is the feeling of being enough. You think you want love from another, but what you really want is to feel connected, to not feel alone within yourself. You think you want to be understood, but what you really want is to understand yourself. And all of this, the enoughness, the connection, the understanding, begins the moment you stop running and turn inward. In that quiet space, you remember. Peace was never out there. It was always here beneath the noise, beneath the masks, beneath the fear. You are not lost. You have simply been looking in every direction except the one place that holds the key. Within. The beauty of becoming intimate with your own presence. When you stop running, something strange and beautiful begins to happen. You start to enjoy your own company. You start to feel safe in silence. You start to see beauty in your breath, in your body, in your being. You realize you don't have to impress anyone. You don't have to perform. You don't have to chase validation. You are enough as you are. You, in your most unfiltered, unedited, unguarded form, worthy of love, peace, and freedom. And the deeper you go inward, the less you crave outward. You no longer seek people to complete you. You no longer seek possessions to define you. You no longer seek escape because you are no longer at war with yourself. You've made peace. And in that peace, you bloom. Softly, quietly, powerfully, the storm teaches you stillness. How chaos reveals the depth of your peace. You never really know how peaceful you are until everything around you falls apart. When the road is smooth, it's easy to speak of patience, to talk about mindfulness, to recite quotes about inner calm. But the true test of your practice, the real mirror of your growth, comes in the storm, when nothing goes as planned, when the people you love pull away, when your health shakes, your dreams stall, your heart breaks, and the world spins too fast. It's in these moments that the deepest Buddhist truth reveals itself. The storm does not destroy your peace, it reveals whether you've built it on the surface or in the roots. In Buddhist tradition, the storm is not the enemy, it is the teacher. Because only in the face of chaos do you truly begin to understand stillness. Not the stillness of outer control, but the stillness of inner surrender. A stillness so deep, the winds may rage but they cannot reach you, because your center is no longer outside of you, it is within. The illusion of control is the first storm. Most of the suffering you feel in a chaotic moment isn't from the moment itself, it's from your resistance to it. Your belief that things shouldn't be this way, that you need to fix it now. That life must match your plan or something is wrong. This resistance is the first storm, and it happens inside your mind. We were raised to believe we must control life to be okay, that peace is found in predictability, that happiness is the result of everything going right. But Buddhist wisdom gently shatters this illusion. It teaches that attachment to control is the root of fear, and fear is what turns discomfort into suffering. The storm outside is not optional. Life will change, people will leave, things will break, emotions will rise. But the storm inside, that is where your freedom lies. And so the practice becomes this. When chaos arrives, don't control, return. Return to your breath. Return to your body. Return to this moment. Return to the part of you that watches, that does not panic, that does not cling. Because that part the still witnesses, untouched by the chaos. It sees clearly, it feels fully, but it remains grounded. You can't stop the rain, but you can stop drowning in it. There is a Zen teaching. You cannot stop the rain, but you can learn to get wet without drowning. What this means is simple. You don't need to resist the pain. You need to relate to it differently. When sadness comes, don't fight it, feel it. When anger rises, don't suppress it, observe it. When anxiety surges, don't shame it, breathe with it. Most of us were never taught how to feel emotions without being consumed by them. We swing between denial and overwhelm. But mindfulness offers a third path, awareness. Awareness does not push the emotion away, and it doesn't become the emotion. It holds it, like a parent holds a crying child, not with judgment, but with love. And the moment you do this, something miraculous happens. The emotion begins to soften, not because you forced it away, but because you gave it the one thing it truly needed: presence. You realize that emotions are not permanent storms. They are weather patterns passing through your sky. And you? You are the sky, vast, open, untouched. This shift from identification to observation is the heart of Buddhist inner peace. And it's never more powerful than when life gets hard. Chaos strips away what doesn't matter. There's a strange kind of clarity that chaos brings. When things fall apart, so do illusions. Suddenly, the things you thought mattered, the people you tried so hard to impress, fade from your concern. The fears that held you back feel small. And in the ashes of everything that broke, you see what remains: your breath, your awareness, your capacity to endure, your ability to choose again. This is the secret gift of chaos. It simplifies you. It burns away distraction. It humbles the ego. It reminds you of what truly matters. And in that raw space, something new begins to grow. Not a peace built on denial, but a peace forged in truth. A peace that doesn't require life to be perfect, only for you to be present with what is. Stillness is not passive, it is powerful. In our culture, stillness is often misunderstood. People think it means doing nothing, being weak, avoiding problems. But in Buddhist philosophy, stillness is not passivity. It is the most active form of awareness. To be still is to resist the urge to react blindly. To be still is to feel the storm fully without losing your footing. To be still is to move from intention, not impulse. It takes immense strength to pause when everything inside you screams to panic. It takes maturity to listen instead of lash out. It takes wisdom to sit with the discomfort long enough to hear what it's trying to teach you. Stillness is not the absence of movement, it is the mastery of direction. And in chaos, this is what saves you. You no longer become a leaf in the wind. You become the tree, rooted, alive, unshaken. The eye of the storm is inside you. There is a place inside you that nothing can touch. Not grief, not noise, not failure, not fear. This place is not far away. It is not mystical. It is you when you stop identifying with the storm and return to presence. The more you practice returning here, the more you build a relationship with it. And eventually, this still center becomes your home. Even in the middle of heartbreak, you'll feel a quiet hum of okayness. Even when the future is unclear, you'll sense a subtle trust that you'll meet whatever comes. Even when the body shakes, the tears fall, the voices rise, you'll remain tethered. Because you've remembered, peace was never the absence of noise. It was the presence of awareness. You were never trying to escape life. You were trying to stop drowning in it. And now you know how. By returning, by softening, by witnessing the storm without becoming it. You stop reacting. You start responding. And in that space you find yourself again. You are not what breaks you, you are what remains. You are not your fear, you are the one who holds it. You are not your sadness, you are the space it moves through. You are not your chaos, you are the calm watching it unfold. And when you fully realize this, not as an idea, but as a lived experience, you become free. Chaos may still come. People may still disappoint you. Plans may still fall apart. But your peace is no longer fragile because it's no longer dependent on conditions. It lives in you. It is you. Not because life got easier, but because you stopped expecting it to and started trusting your ability to meet it. Fully, consciously, compassionately. This is what the storm was trying to teach you all along. Not how to avoid the rain, but how to dance in it. Not how to silence the thunder, but how to let it pass through your heart without shaking your soul. Not how to be untouched by life, but how to be so deeply touched by life that even your pain becomes a portal to presence. And now you understand. The storm did not come to destroy your peace. It came to awaken it. And it has. The wisdom of emptiness, how letting go of meaning brings true freedom. There is a quiet revolution hidden in the heart of Buddhist philosophy. A teaching so misunderstood, yet so powerful, it has the potential to set you free not from the world, but from the chains you unknowingly place around your own heart. It is the wisdom of emptiness, shunyata, a truth that everything you cling to for identity, certainty, or security is ultimately empty of fixed meaning, not meaningless, but empty of the weight you give it. And in understanding this, you are not left hollow, you are left free. Because what you call sadness is not just emotion, it is a story wrapped around sensation. What you call self is not a solid being, it is a process, ever changing. What you call truth is often just belief made rigid. And what you call suffering is not what happens, it is the meaning you attach to what happens. This is not a philosophy to be worshipped, it is a mirror. One that shows you are suffering not because life is cruel, but because your mind is clinging to form, permanence, and identity in a world that is none of those things. To awaken is not to find new meaning, it is to become aware of the freedom that comes from not needing one. The stories that break us. Humans are storytellers. From the moment we wake, our minds craft meaning. She didn't reply, she must be angry. I failed once, so I'm a failure. I feel sad, something must be wrong with me. This meaning-making machine is how the ego tries to feel safe in a chaotic world. But in doing so, it creates prisons out of ideas. You are not hurt by what someone said, you are hurt by what you made it mean. You are not crushed by the loss, you are crushed by the belief that it shouldn't have happened. You are not destroyed by failure, you are destroyed by the idea that it defines you. Buddhist wisdom invites you to pause and ask, is this true? Or is this a story my mind is clinging to? You begin to notice how often your pain is not from life, but from your interpretation of life. And in that moment of seeing clearly, you unlock something sacred. Choice. The choice to question the story. The choice to sit with the raw feeling without adding a narrative. The choice to experience the present not as your past, not as your fear, but as it is. This is what emptiness offers. Not void, but space. The space between what is and what your mind insists it must mean. And in that space, peace blooms. Nothing is solid, and that's a gift. Most people fear change, fear uncertainty, fear the idea that nothing is permanent. But from the Buddhist view, impermanence is not the problem. It is the promise. Because if nothing is fixed, then nothing is stuck. No identity is permanent. No emotion is forever. No situation is absolute. That means the sadness you feel now, it is not who you are, it is just weather. That belief you've held for years, it can dissolve. That part of you that feels broken, it is not your essence. It is a passing state. Everything is arising and passing. You are a river knot, a rock, a flamingo, a statue, an unfolding knot, a finished product. This isn't meant to make you afraid. It's meant to make you light. Because once you realize that nothing can truly define you, no label, no past, no role, you are no longer bound to them. You become fluid, soft, free, able to move through life not with resistance, but with grace. This is not detachment, it is non-clinging. You still love, you still feel, you still care. But you don't squeeze. You don't trap. You don't say, stay exactly like this forever. You allow. And in that allowing, life becomes more vivid, because you're no longer looking at it through the lens of what it should be. You're seeing it as it is. Alive, impermanent, empty of fixed meaning, and therefore completely open to possibility. The self is a symphony, not a statue. Many people live with a deep, quiet fear that they don't know who they are. They seek to find themselves in relationships, careers, labels, spiritual roles. But Buddhist insight turns this on its head. What if there is no solid self to find? What if you are not a noun but a verb? Not a thing but a process? Not someone to be defined but an experience to be lived? You are not your thoughts, they change. You are not your body. It ages, transforms. You are not your emotions. They rise and fall like tides. So, what are you? You are the space in which all of it happens. You are the awareness watching the symphony. The moment you cling to one note, I am this emotion, I am this title, I am this identity, you suffer. because the symphony moves on, and you feel left behind. But the moment you realize, I am the music, not one note, you begin to relax. You don't have to hold on. You don't have to be something all the time. You can just be, changing, flowing, empty of fixed form but full of presence. And in that, the anxiety begins to soften, because you no longer need to be someone to matter. You already do, by simply existing, by being the witness to all that moves through you. You are no longer afraid of not knowing who you are. You are in love with the fact that you are too vast to ever be captured by one name. Letting go of meaning is not giving up, it is opening up. When people hear emptiness, they fear it means nihilism, that nothing matters, that life is cold. But emptiness is not the absence of meaning. It is the freedom from needing life to conform to one meaning. It's not that nothing matters, it's that you are free to meet each moment freshly, without dragging old stories into it. You stop asking, why did this happen to me? And you start asking, what is this moment showing me? You stop trying to make sense of every emotion and start listening to it. You stop needing a reason for everything and start honoring your direct experience. In doing this, you don't become empty, you become whole. Because now you are not trapped in the mind's narrow boxes. You are open to the full mystery of life. And this mystery, once feared, becomes your sanctuary. Because now you know, you don't need to understand everything to be at peace with it. You don't need to control everything to feel safe in it. You only need to show up fully, with awareness, again and again, and let life reveal itself to you, one breath at a time. Emptiness is the space where freedom lives. So what does it mean to live with this wisdom? It means when sadness comes, you see it not as my depression, but as an experience arising in awareness. You hold it with compassion. You watch it shift. You don't cling. It means when someone hurts you, you don't define yourself by it. You feel it, learn from it, release it. It means when joy comes, you savor it fully without demanding it stay. You dance with it, knowing it's a guest. It means when uncertainty arrives, you breathe into it. You remember, this too is empty, and therefore it holds infinite possibility. You become less reactive, more spacious, more present, not because you have all the answers, but because you no longer need them to feel free. Life reflects what you carry within. There is a quiet truth in Buddhist philosophy that echoes in the silence of meditation and the stillness of every mindful breath. The world is your mirror. It reflects not what is outside you, but what is active inside you. If your mind is restless, the world feels chaotic. If your heart is closed, others feel distant. If you are at war with yourself, everything feels like a battlefield. This is not because life is inherently unkind, but because your perception is colored by the emotions and stories you carry. Buddhism does not ask you to fight the world. It invites you to understand that your relationship with reality is not fixed, it is fluid. It bends to the posture of your mind. And when you begin to change your inner world, everything outside begins to shift as well. Not always in form, but in meaning, in experience, in depth. This sacred principle that life is a mirror is not a metaphor for spiritual poetry. It is the foundation for liberation. Because the moment you understand that your suffering is not out there, but a reflection of in here, you begin to reclaim your power. You stop trying to fix the reflection and begin to cleanse the mirror. That is the path to peace. The pain you judge in others' lives inside you. Have you ever felt triggered by someone's behavior, their arrogance, their silence, their success, their weakness? In Buddhist practice, we learn to pause and ask, what is this moment showing me about myself? Not in self-blame, but in self-inquiry. because what you hate in others often reveals what you have not yet made peace with in yourself. When someone's ego enrages you, is it because you're afraid of your own pride? When someone's silence bothers you, is it because you crave validation? When someone's weakness makes you uncomfortable, is it because you fear your own vulnerability? This is not about excusing harmful behavior. It is about understanding why that behavior disturbs your peace. Because peace is not the absence of disturbance. It is the ability to see clearly what's happening within you, so that you no longer project it onto others. This is the sacred mirror. It does not judge. It simply reflects. And what it reflects is always an invitation not to condemn yourself, but to come closer to yourself. To ask, where in me does this live? What am I unwilling to feel? What part of myself is crying out to be held? And in that moment of honest reflection, transformation begins. Not by fixing anyone else, but by meeting the parts of you that were waiting for your attention. Every emotion is a teacher dressed in disguise. Buddhist teachings do not categorize emotions into good and bad. They see emotions as visitors. Each one carries a message. Each one reflects a movement of the heart. When anger arises, it may be showing you where your boundaries were crossed. When sadness appears, it may be showing you where you still hold grief. When envy flares up, it may be reflecting the parts of you that feel unseen. We often want to get rid of emotions, but Buddhist wisdom teaches that emotions are not here to be banished. They are here to be heard. They are the language of your inner world, the mirror showing you where your energy is stuck, where your heart is closed, where your wounds have not yet healed. To sit with emotion without judgment is to gaze into the mirror and say, I am listening. You begin to realize your pain is not against you. It is for you. It is a messenger. And once its message is heard, it softens. You don't need to fix it. You only need to feel it. And in doing so, the mirror becomes clearer. Not because the pain disappears, but because your resistance dissolves. You meet yourself, and in doing so, the world becomes less threatening. Because now, you are no longer running. You are receiving. What you see in others is a reflection of how you see yourself. Have you ever noticed that when you're in a good, state-rested, peaceful, grateful, other people seem kinder, more beautiful, more patient? And when you're anxious, tired, or self-critical, everyone seems rude, dismissive, or distant. This is not a coincidence. Your perception is not passive. It is shaped by your inner weather. If you are full of judgment, you will see judgment everywhere. If you are full of shame, you will feel judged even when no one is judging you. If you are full of love, you will see light even in the places that used to feel dark. This is why Buddhist practice emphasizes inner cleansing over outer fixing. Because the moment you soften your heart toward yourself, you begin to soften toward others. The people who used to irritate you no longer disturb you. The situations that used to trigger you no longer define you. Not because they changed, but because you did. You stopped using the world as a punching bag for your inner unrest. You began to relate to life not from fear or defense, but from openness. And in that openness, the world became a gentler place. Because it was now a reflection of a gentler you. Healing the mirror is an act of compassion. When you clean a mirror, you don't yell at the reflection. You wipe away the dust. You remove the smudges. You restore clarity. The same is true of healing. When life reflects your pain, don't attack the people or events that triggered it. Look inward. Ask, what in me is being called to heal? This is not about spiritual bypassing. It's about spiritual responsibility. You are not responsible for what others do, but you are responsible for what lives inside your heart. your fears, your assumptions, your wounds, your beliefs. When you meet them with compassion, something profound happens. The world begins to respond differently. Not because life suddenly becomes perfect, but because you are no longer projecting your inner conflict onto it. You are meeting life with clarity instead of distortion, presence instead of preconception, love instead of fear. And this shift is everything, because now you are not at the mercy of life. You are in relationship with it, alive to its lessons, open to its reflections, free from the prison of blame. Even the hardest people are mirrors. It is easy to see the sacred mirror in kind people, in moments of beauty, in peaceful conversations. But can you see the mirror in your enemies? In those who betray you? In those who ignore you? Buddhism teaches that even these moments are your teachers. Not because you deserved harm, but because every painful interaction reflects something to explore, a boundary to strengthen, a truth to express, a pattern to break, a wound to feel. You are not asked to tolerate abuse. You are asked to be curious. Why does this affect me so deeply? What part of me still believes I must stay silent? Where have I abandoned myself in the name of being liked? These reflections are hard, but they are holy, because they do not just point to pain. They point to liberation. Every trigger is a breadcrumb leading you back to parts of yourself that were forgotten, silenced, or shamed. And when you follow those breadcrumbs, you arrive back at your own heart. Not broken, but whole. Not lost, but seen. Not weak, but awake. The sacred mirror. Life reflects what you carry within. There is a quiet truth in Buddhist philosophy that echoes in the silence of meditation and the stillness of every mindful breath. The world is your mirror. It reflects not what is outside you, but what is active inside you. If your mind is restless, the world feels chaotic. If your heart is closed, others feel distant. If you are at war with yourself, everything feels like a battlefield. This is not because life is inherently unkind, but because your perception is colored by the emotions and stories you carry. Buddhism does not ask you to fight the world. It invites you to understand that your relationship with reality is not fixed. It is fluid. It bends to the posture of your mind. And when you begin to change your inner world, everything outside begins to shift as well. Not always in form, but in meaning, in experience, in depth. This sacred principle that life is a mirror is not a metaphor for spiritual poetry. It is the foundation for liberation. Because the moment you understand that your suffering is not out there, but a reflection of in here, you begin to reclaim your power. You stop trying to fix the reflection and begin to cleanse the mirror. That is the path to peace. The pain you judge in others' lives inside you. Have you ever felt triggered by someone's behavior? Their arrogance, their silence, their success, their weakness? In Buddhist practice, we learn to pause and ask, what is this moment showing me about myself? Not in self-blame, but in self-inquiry. Because what you hate in others often reveals what you have not yet made peace with in yourself. When someone's ego enrages you, is it because you're afraid of your own pride? When someone's silence bothers you, is it because you crave validation? When someone's weakness makes you uncomfortable, is it because you fear your own vulnerability? This is not about excusing harmful behavior. It is about understanding why that behavior disturbs your peace. Because peace is not the absence of disturbance. It is the ability to see clearly what's happening within you, so that you no longer project it onto others. This is the sacred mirror. It does not judge. It simply reflects. And what it reflects is always an invitation not to condemn yourself, but to come closer to yourself. to ask, where in me does this live? What am I unwilling to feel? What part of myself is crying out to be held? And in that moment of honest reflection, transformation begins, not by fixing anyone else, but by meeting the parts of you that were waiting for your attention. Every emotion is a teacher dressed in disguise. Buddhist teachings do not categorize emotions into good and bad. They see emotions as visitors. Each one carries a message. Each one reflects a movement of the heart. When anger arises, it may be showing you where your boundaries were crossed. When sadness appears, it may be showing you where you still hold grief. When envy flares up, it may be reflecting the parts of you that feel unseen. We often want to get rid of emotions, but Buddhist wisdom teaches that emotions are not here to be banished. They are here to be heard. They are the language of your inner world, the mirror showing you where your energy is stuck, where your heart is closed, where your wounds have not yet healed. To sit with emotion without judgment is to gaze into the mirror and say, I am listening. You begin to realize your pain is not against you. It is for you. It is a messenger. And once its message is heard, it softens. You don't need to fix it. You only need to feel it. And in doing so, the mirror becomes clearer. Not because the pain disappears, but because your resistance dissolves. You meet yourself, and in doing so, the world becomes less threatening. Because now, you are no longer running. You are receiving. What you see in others is a reflection of how you see yourself. Have you ever noticed that when you're in a good, state-arrested, peaceful, grateful, other people seem kinder, more beautiful, more patient? And when you're anxious, tired, or self-critical, everyone seems rude, dismissive, or distant? This is not a coincidence. Your perception is not passive. It is shaped by your inner weather. If you are full of judgment, you will see judgment everywhere. If you are full of shame, you will feel judged even when no one is judging you. If you are full of love, you will see light even in the places that used to feel dark. This is why Buddhist practice emphasizes inner cleansing over outer fixing, because the moment you soften your heart toward yourself, you begin to soften toward others. The people who used to irritate you no longer disturb you. The situations that used to trigger you no longer define you. Not because they changed, but because you did. You stopped using the world as a punching bag for your inner unrest. You began to relate to life not from fear or defense, but from openness. And in that openness, the world became a gentler place. Because it was now a reflection of a gentler you. Healing the mirror is an act of compassion. When you clean a mirror, you don't yell at the reflection. You wipe away the dust. You remove the smudges. You restore clarity. The same is true of healing. When life reflects your pain, don't attack the people or events that triggered it. Look inward. Ask, what in me is being called to heal? This is not about spiritual bypassing. It's about spiritual responsibility. You are not responsible for what others do, but you are responsible for what lives inside your heart. Your fears, your assumptions, your wounds, your beliefs. When you meet them with compassion, something profound happens. The world begins to respond differently. Not because life suddenly becomes perfect, but because you are no longer projecting your inner conflict onto it. You are meeting life with clarity instead of distortion, presence instead of preconception, love instead of fear. And this shift is everything, because now you are not at the mercy of life. You are in relationship with it, alive to its lessons, open to its reflections, free from the prison of blame. Even the hardest people are mirrors. It is easy to see the sacred mirror in kind people, in moments of beauty, in peaceful conversations, But can you see the mirror in your enemies? In those who betray you? In those who ignore you? Buddhism teaches that even these moments are your teachers, not because you deserved harm, but because every painful interaction reflects something to explore, a boundary to strengthen, a truth to express, a pattern to break, a wound to feel. You are not asked to tolerate abuse. You are asked to be curious. Why does this affect me so deeply? What part of me still believes I must stay silent? Where have I abandoned myself in the name of being liked? These reflections are hard, but they are holy, because they do not just point to pain. They point to liberation. Every trigger is a breadcrumb leading you back to parts of yourself that were forgotten, silenced, or shamed. And when you follow those breadcrumbs, you arrive back at your own heart. Not broken, but whole. Not lost, but seen. Not weak, but awake. The art of gentle detachment. How to love without losing yourself. Buddhism offers many truths that soothe the soul, but among its most powerful is a quiet, often misunderstood teaching. True peace comes not from grasping, but from letting go. Letting go does not mean giving up. It does not mean becoming cold or indifferent. It means loving without attachment, caring without control, and walking through life with open hands rather than clenched fists. This sacred practice is called gentle detachment, the art of being deeply present with life and people without clinging to how they must stay. In a world that tells us to hold tighter, to define ourselves by who we have, what we own, and what we've achieved, detachment feels unnatural. It feels almost like a betrayal to the heart. But in truth, it is the greatest act of love, not just toward others, but toward yourself. Because it is only when you release the need to possess that you finally become free to appreciate. And it is only in freedom that love truly flourishes. This is not a cold philosophy, it is a deeply warm one, because it recognizes that everything in this world is impermanent. To fight impermanence is to suffer, but to flow with it, that is liberation. That is awakening. Why clinging hurts more than letting go? When we love something or someone, our first instinct is to protect it, to hold on, to make it permanent. But everything in this life, every person, every emotion, every season, every chapter is already in motion. It is rising, peaking, fading, shifting, transforming. The moment you try to stop the wave, you begin to drown. You may cling to a relationship that no longer nourishes your soul, simply because you fear the emptiness that might follow. You may hold on to an identity you've outgrown, afraid that letting it go means losing yourself. You may revisit memories again and again, not out of joy, but out of fear that the past was better than the future could ever be. And so, suffering grows not from the loss itself, but from your resistance to the loss. The tighter you hold, the more pain you create. In Buddhism, this is known as upadana grasping, or fuel for suffering. It is the false belief that your peace depends on something staying the same. But the world is not static, neither are you. So every time you try to hold still something meant to move, you suffer. But when you learn to open your hands, when you allow what comes to come and what goes to go, something shifts inside you. You don't lose connection, you deepen it. Because now, you are no longer relating to life as a possessor, you are relating as a witness, a participant, a lover of what is, rather than what should be. And in that shift, sadness softens, fear dissolves, and joy becomes possibly not as a peak emotion, but as a quiet state of alignment with the way things truly are. Detachment is not indifference, it is unconditional presence. Many people confuse detachment with emotional coldness. They imagine the Buddhist monk as someone who feels nothing, loves no one, lives in sterile silence. But this image is not detachment, it is disconnection. True detachment is not apathy. It is love without fear. It is care without clinging. It is showing up fully, vulnerably, joyfully, and still letting go. You love someone deeply. You hold their hand. You share your heart. But you do not grip them. You do not place your happiness in their hands. You do not demand that they stay, act, or love in a certain way. You allow them to be. You honor their path. And if they must leave, you let them go, not because you don't care, but because you understand that holding them tight cannot make them stay. You allow emotions to rise. You feel sadness, anger, even despair, but you no longer become those emotions. You hold them gently, knowing they are clouds, not the sky. You no longer define yourself by their presence. You observe them like waves, letting them wash through without drowning in them. You engage with life. You dream. You create. You connect. But you remain rooted in the present, not addicted to a future outcome. This is not detachment as withdrawal. It is detachment as clarity. You are here, fully, but you do not carry chains. And that, in its essence, is freedom. Loving without ownership. So much of human suffering comes from trying to possess what can only be experienced. We say, "This is my person, my happiness, my success." But in truth, nothing belongs to us, not forever. People are on loan. Emotions are guests. Time is a river that cannot be stopped. When you love someone as if they are yours, you create tension. You fear their change. You resist their growth. You try to mold them into what you need. But when you love them as if they are free, something incredible happens. You give them space to breathe. You give them room to expand. And in that space, deeper love is born love, not built on control, but on acceptance. This does not mean you don't set boundaries. This does not mean you allow harm. It means you trust that real connection does not require ownership. You no longer say, "Stay with me to make me whole." You say, "I am whole and I choose to walk beside you." And if they choose to walk away, you bless them. You grieve, yes. You feel the pain. But you do not make their departure the death of your spirit. Because your spirit is not built on anyone else's presence. It is built on your presence. And that is unshakable. Returning to the moment, again and again. The heart of gentle detachment is this: presence. Not just being physically there, but mentally and emotionally grounded in the now. Attachment pulls you into the past or launches you into the future. You become consumed by what was or what might be. But detachment anchors you in the moment. You stop replaying conversations. You stop predicting endings. You start listening. You start breathing. You start noticing the color of the sky, the warmth of tea, the rise and fall of your chest. And in this noticing, you soften. You realize that the moment you're in is not missing anything. It is whole. You are whole. And everything else, everything outside of you, it can be appreciated, but it is not required. This is not about isolation. It is about integration. You are no longer lost in life. You are with life. And in that presence, peace is no longer a pursuit. It is your home, the stillness beneath all movement. Life is always changing. People come, people go. Success arrives, then fades. Your body changes, your mind evolves. And yet beneath all of it, something remains. Awareness, stillness, that which watches it all, without being moved by it. This is the self that cannot be harmed by loss. The self that does not fear the future. The self that does not shrink with rejection or swell with praise. It is your original nature, calm, spacious, silent. Buddhist practice is the return to this nature. You peel away attachment, not to escape life, but to uncover the part of you that no longer depends on it. This is not disconnection, it is the purest connection to life, to love, to truth. Because now you are no longer attached to the waves. You are the ocean, deep, unmoved, alive. You are not your thoughts. How to find stillness beneath the mental storm. In the depths of Buddhist philosophy, there lies one of the most liberating truths ever spoken. You are not your thoughts. This simple realization, when understood not just intellectually but experientially, can unravel decades of suffering in a single moment. Because most of your pain, emotional, mental, spiritual, does not come from what is happening in your life, but from what your mind is saying about it. The judgments, the comparisons, the fear of what's next, the shame of what was, the endless commentary of the inner voice. The voice that speaks, critiques, worries, imagines, and remembers. But you are not that voice. You are the one who hears it. And in that sacred distinction lies the key to freedom. You may think that your mind defines you, that the thoughts racing through your head reflect who you are. But if you pause for a moment and watch, really watch, you'll notice something miraculous. Thoughts arise and pass. They are like clouds moving across the sky. Some are dark, some are bright, some carry storms, others simply float. But the sky is untouched, unstained, ever present. That sky is your awareness, your true self. And it does not get pulled into the drama of the clouds unless it believes it must. The illusion of identity. Most people live their entire lives identified with thought. They say, I am anxious, rather than anxious thoughts are arising. They say, I am a failure, instead of, my mind is replaying stories of past mistakes. And so they live inside a prison not built of walls, but of words. But once you begin to see that a thought is just a mental event, not a truth, not a prophecy, not a sentence, you begin to breathe again. You realize that your thoughts can be loud, terrifying, judgmental, or seductive, and still be completely optional. Buddhism does not say to suppress your thoughts or fight them. It teaches you to observe them, to become the witness, to step back and notice the stream flowing through your mind without jumping in and getting swept away. This witnessing is the foundation of Vipassana meditation, one of the most ancient practices in Buddhist tradition. In this practice, you do not chase peace. You simply sit and watch. You see thoughts come. You see them go, and eventually you see through them. You realize that no thought, no matter how loud, is the voice of truth. It is just the mind doing what it's conditioned to do: interpret, narrate, dramatize. You do not need to believe everything you think. In fact, most of your liberation begins the moment you stop doing so. Thoughts are not the enemy. It's important to understand that Buddhism does not villainize the mind. It does not say, the mind is bad. The mind is a tool, a beautiful, powerful, necessary tool. It solves problems. It learns languages. It creates poetry and builds temples. But problems arise when the tool becomes the master, when the voice in your head is no longer something you use but something you obey. In Buddhist terms, this is Marathi illusion, the distraction, the force that pulls you out of presence. Mara appears as thoughts of doubt, fear, ego, comparison. And the Buddha himself, upon reaching enlightenment, did not destroy Mara. He did not banish the mind. He simply said, I see you. That's all. Awareness dissolves illusion. When you say, I see this thought, I see this fear, I see this judgment, you are no longer inside it. You are no longer lost. You have stepped back into the seat of consciousness. And from that seat, peace is not something to chase. It is what remains when the storm passes. You begin to realize, I do not need to fight my mind. I only need to stop following it blindly. You are the master, not the voice. The space between thoughts. One of the most powerful revelations in Buddhist practice is discovering that thoughts are not constant. There are gaps, moments of silence, fleeting spaces of stillness. And the more you practice mindfulness, the more you begin to notice these spaces. At first, they are small. A second of silence before the next thought appears, a breath where nothing needs to be explained. But slowly, they expand. The chatter loses urgency. The mind quiets, not because you forced it, but because you stopped feeding it. Imagine your thoughts are birds, and your attention is the seed. Every time you fixate, react, or cling, you are feeding them. But when you observe without feeding, the birds settle. They stop circling, and beneath them, a still sky emerges. In that stillness, something ancient stirs, something that existed before your first thought, something that will remain after the last. That is your true self, still, silent, aware, unburdened by the noise, living as the observer. So how does this shift affect your daily life? Everything begins to change when you start living from awareness rather than thought. You wake up and notice the thoughts arising, today will be stressful. But instead of believing them, you smile, you breathe, you respond, not from fear but from presence. You face conflict, and your mind screams, they don't respect you. But you pause, you ask, is that true, or just an old wound speaking? You feel sadness, and the mind says, you'll always be like this. But you remember, no, this is weather, not identity. This is not about suppressing emotion. It is about not making emotion your home. You allow everything to visit joy, grief, doubt, longing, but you no longer confuse them with who you are. You are the space in which these visitors come and go. And that space is untouchable, indestructible, sacred. This is the essence of non-identification. You no longer collapse into thought. You expand into awareness. And in that expansion, life becomes lighter. Not because circumstances change, but because your relationship with your mind is transformed. You no longer fear your thoughts. You understand them. And in understanding, you are free. If you've walked with these lessons, not just read them but felt them, then something inside you has already begun to shift. Not loudly, not dramatically, but gently. Like the way sunlight slips through the cracks of a dark room, not to burn it down but to remind it of warmth it forgot it could feel. This journey was never about escaping sadness. It was about understanding it, sitting with it, listening to its voice without letting it become your name. Because in Buddhism, the goal is not to numb your humanity, but to awaken within it, to feel everything, without being ruled by anything. To stand in the middle of pain and joy, fear and peace, life and death, and simply be present. You've learned that pain is a visitor, but suffering is a choice. That craving creates the illusion of emptiness, that you are not your thoughts. That peace is not found in the world, but in how you meet the world. And now, you know something most people never will. That sadness is not the end of peace. It is the invitation to return to it. So when the mind shouts, when the heart aches, when the storms come again, as they will remember this, you are not the voice in your head. You are the sky it speaks beneath. You are not broken. You are simply remembering. And when you sit still long enough, you'll hear it. That quiet voice beneath all the noise. The one that says, you were never lost, only distracted. So come home, to your breath, to your awareness, to the place in you that has always been free. That's where sadness ends. That's where peace begins. That's where you begin again.